Salutations, our legion of elves and reindeer. Welcome to Podcast of the Storm, where socially awkward snowmen, crazy stocking stuffers, and all around naughty list members convene to talk and debate all things pop culture. With me, as always, is my co-host, the Holly Jolly Bookworm, aka the Authenticator, Delta L. Mortimer.
Hello, and Merry Christmas, everyone.
And I am your host / Santa Claus Burglar, the Brainstormer Pop Culture. Happy December. Happy December.
It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas. Soon the bells will start. Sorry. I'm not going to do the whole thing, but it was funny.
Yeah. We got some stuff for you. Hello, Ed Brewer. Good to see you.
When finding stuff for this week, I tried to make it as symmetrical to our Halloween episodes as possible because, you know, there's a lot of overlap between those two things, despite being kind of the divergent poles of the holiday spirit, as it were.
Right. I think this is going to be somewhat pretty laxed for the most part. Keep in mind, we don't really look for, we keep within time frame of like at least 5 years or so when it comes to month specific articles.
Yeah, and we try not to cover things we've already covered once.
Yeah.
Fortunately, there is apparently a cottage industry in making holiday articles, so we usually have plenty to pull from.
Yeah. Okay, so let's start off with the first one. Most of this stuff, all this stuff Dawn sent me. First one. This is from wearyyourvoicemag.com. Wearyyourvoicemag.com.
Get your food? Oh, you already did. Okay. What? You all right?
Sorry, family.
Yep. I assume that was your granddad? Where's that from?
Yeah, that was my grandfather. Okay. Yeah. So Christmas isn't Christian. The pagan roots of the winter holiday. This is by Laurel Dickman. It's published December 2nd, 2016. I don't think we did this last year, but Dawn, before we start this, right?
Right.
Do you want to give like a kind of a brief overview / history of, I guess, the pagan roots of Christmas? You know.
Well, it's actually fairly similar to the pagan roots of Halloween because it seemed to be a running gag in history that pre-Christian or pre-Abrahamic harvest festivals, when the Romans converted to Christianity, got co-opted, rebranded, and re-symbolized so as to jive better with the new religion. Because they initially tried making people stop celebrating their holidays, and that went over about as well as trying to get a drunk to give up alcohol. And so instead of getting rid of the existing traditions, they just sort of rebranded and co-opted them. Incidentally and interestingly, the time of year that Jesus was actually born, for any Christians out there, was likely in the summertime. The reason why Christmas is celebrated on December the 25th is to coincide with the winter solstice, aka Yule, aka Saturnalia, because that was considered a time of essentially rebirth, and they, while they were co-opting pre-existing things, it seemed like they tried to match the symbolism as much as possible. So the pre-existing pagan festivals of like death and the veils being thin became Halloween, and the adjoining festival of essentially love, hearth, home, and plenty became what eventually was the origins of Christmas. Short version. I don't want to go too far into detail because I'm sure some of it will be gone over in the actual article, and I don't want to make the article redundant. So yeah.
Edward says, I'm not religious. I'm not either. It's just more so an interesting thing to talk about, I'm sure.
Yeah, I love these holidays for their ancient roots. I'm not really a fan of the rebranding. Not that I have any particular problems with the rebranding. It's just let's be my thing is always and will always be accuracy. Um and being as accurate as possible. Christmas is just the Christianized rebrand of Saturnalia, Yule, and the winter solstice. So I'm going to celebrate it as such.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Yep. Anyway,
yeah.
Moving forward.
People are super sensitive when it comes to Christmas. That's understandable. And
I
get it, but also it depends on the level of sensitive.
And also why
Yeah.
and like if somebody is deliberately insulting Christmas, then that's one thing. But if they're just telling you, hey, did you know that this goes back much further than Christianity, then you don't really have any reason to be upset.
Yeah.
And incidentally, for as much as the traditionalist right wing goes on and on and on about the war on Christmas derp, the initial war on Christmas, if there could be said to be one, happened during the Protestant Reformation, because according to bastards like Oliver Cromwell, Christmas and Halloween were too pagan, and therefore Christians shouldn't celebrate them. And naturally, it almost killed the holiday when they hyper-focused on the religious angle, because what is true of the holidays is the part that people actually enjoy is the part that comes from pre-Christian sources. And I'm not trying to flex over other people's religious holidays or anything, but again, my issue is, and always has been, accuracy. It's a human universal. It's not Christian, it's not pagan, it's just a human universal, because humans have a respect for nature, and that respect for nature usually translates to harvest festivals and festivals of plenty in the winter.
Mm-hmm. Moving on?
Yep.
All right. Much of the world has been taught that the holiday marks the birth of the Christian Savior, Jesus Christ, but that's simply wrong. Yeah, like Dalton said earlier.
Yeah, based on the astronomical signs in the Bible and when the Christmas star would have actually been a thing to happen, and also the fact that Jesus was allegedly born in a manger, which that kind of bringing all the animals inside and using the manger that way would have been something more likely to happen in the summer than in the winter. So, yeah. As far as the Bible is concerned, that we have written, Jesus was born in the summer, and the reason we celebrate his birthday on December the 21st is because the early church didn't know when Jesus' birthday was, but they needed to convert some non-Christians over to their side, and so, this Yule thing you all have? Well, for church purposes, it's for the birthday of Jesus now, because you can still celebrate the same things, but we're going to say it's for a different reason, because that way when your children show up in a couple generations, they won't know the difference. Yay.
Yeah. Yeah, I got nothing really to say there. Like, it's not wrong.
Yeah.
Although the next thing they say is kind of stupid and out of left field.
Uh-huh. And that's why we cover these.
This wasn't white, and he damn sure wasn't a Capricorn.
I mean,
I get the joke.
True, because he would have been Middle Eastern, but
Yeah.
And I appreciate some new agey appeals to astrology as much as the next guy, but that he wasn't a Capricorn thing might have been going a little bit far.
Yeah, I get the joke. Actually, it makes me think
it's
of
just
the
very
whole,
cheesy.
yeah, the Jesus isn't white thing. It makes me think of like this sketch thing that I watched where I'd have to find it, and we might like watch it just out of hilarity, like sometime later.
Yeah, most of the medieval imagery of Jesus actually was appropriated from images of Bacchus and Dionysus. So there's that.
That's interesting.
Yeah. That's why most versions of Jesus are the white, the Caucasian guy with the brown beard and hair, because that was how Bacchus and Dionysus were depicted by the Greeks and Romans.
Yeah. All right. Historical evidence suggests that Jesus, the person, was born in the springtime, but that Christian missionaries adopted Yule celebrations in order to appease and convert pagans who were deeply spiritually attached to their own holidays. Early Christians were also fascinated by the rural, rustic pagan traditions.
And lest we forget that most of this conversion happened at the behest of Romans post the conversion of the Emperor Constantine. And here's the thing. The Romans had their own pre-existing festival around this time. It was called Saturnalia. It was basically a time when the rules of who was in charge of Roman civilization kind of got flipped. Like, all slaves were said to be free during the festival of Saturnalia. And honestly, one of the more interesting Roman traditions of Saturnalia is slaves could effectively roast their masters during Saturnalia and not receive punishment, which was I just find that hilarious. But of course, it also jives with the Jesus thing of the meek shall inherit the earth, and that's part of the reason why stuff like that was kept for the new tradition. But yes, the pre-Christian Romans also had their own festival during this time, and so they probably also had a lot to say when the new religion was like, well, the emperor believes in Christianity now, so we all have to. I imagine it was very awkward being a Roman during that period. It's like, you what, mate? No. But yeah, moving on.
Mm-hmm. All right. Christians of that period are quite interested in paganism, says Philip Shaw, a researcher of early Germanic languages and Old English.
Because most of them were converting from some form of paganism to Christianity by Roman behest.
Yeah, Leicester University. That's obviously something they think is a bad thing, but it's also something they think is worth remembering. It's what their ancestors did.
And it's also worth noting, probably, that some of the reason why they were so attached to it probably had to do with the traditions themselves. Because as with most pre-Christian festival traditions, there was a lot of partying and a lot of drinking during these times. And it makes sense that you'd want to have a festival like that in the dead of freaking winter. Because I don't think that seasonal depression is a modern problem. I think it's probable that people have always felt this way during the coldest time of the year, and that they need celebratory, appreciative festivals like Saturnalia, Yule, the winter solstice, and eventually Christmas to remind them that there's good in the world and that they should look on the bright side. And also, obviously, there's also the paying respects to the spirits of nature and so on, especially given that this is well into winter territory and therefore is under the jurisdiction of the being occasionally known as Nicknaven Holda Perchta, or most recently, Mab. Moving on.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, I was eating.
Yeah.
Most notable pagan winter holidays were Germanic Yule and Roman Saturnalia. Christian missionaries gave these holidays a makeover, and they are now known to us as Christmas.
Yeah, Christmas is kind of a grab bag of an assortment of various different traditions that kind of overlapped and intersected with each other. That's why I don't mind saying Merry Christmas, even though I'm not Christian, because Christmas itself is already a mongrel holiday. And so much the better. I'm not saying that in a derogatory way. I mean that in a complimentary way. It took the best parts of all the previous festivals, scooshed them together into one thing, and then put a vaguely Christian skin over it, which most people don't even acknowledge most of the time. Moving on.
Mm-hmm. Saturnalia. Saturnalia was a lawless, drunken time in Rome where literally anything was okay. This was the original purge in which laws were suspended for a brief stretch of time.
Well, it's a little bit more complicated than that. Basically, the Saturnalia was the festival of Saturn, aka Kronos, aka Father Time, and essentially, because it was the festival of Saturn, it was sort of considered a time of anarchy and sort of respect for the dead, because Saturn is the planet and the deity associated most with darkness, decay, and anarchy. So essentially, in order to respect and acknowledge him, they turned Roman society into a festival of death, time, and anarchy.
Moving on?
Yep.
Okay. Saturn, the Roman god of agriculture, Saturn, the Roman god of agriculture, liberation in time and parties, was celebrated at what is perhaps the most famous of the Roman festivals, the Saturnalia. It was a time of feasting, role reversals, free speech, gift giving, and revelry.
Yep. Again, the principle of the meek shall inherit the earth springs to mind.
Mm-hmm. After solstice, the darkest night of the year, the renewal of light and the coming of the new year was celebrated in the later Roman Empire at the Dies Natalis of Sol Invictus, the birthday of the unconquerable sun on December 25th.
Well, That's not quite accurate. Basically, the thing there is that Yule peaked in between December 21st and December 25th. The thing you've got to remember is most holidays in the past did not last one day. They lasted usually anywhere from a month to 2 weeks.
Okay. Yule. Scholars have connected the Germanic and Scandinavian celebration to the Wild Hunt, the god Odin, and the pagan Anglo-Saxon Madronite.
I'm not sure how that's actually pronounced. I've only ever seen it written.
Well, what is that though? Like description of that?
Say it again.
Madronite.
Yeah, I'm not. It's not ringing any bells, and that's annoying me. But long story-ish short. As far as the associations with the Wild Hunt go, yes, the Wild Hunt was most often led by Odin, which may or may not tie him to the modern day conception of Santa Claus, but it was also occasionally run by a being known as Gwen Abnoth, who is famous for being a king of winter, quote unquote, and for having a sleigh that was pulled by magical reindeer, hence the Santa Claus imagery again. It was also most often where a feminine deity was concerned, led by either Nick Naven or Mab, depending on what point in history you're referring to her. So yeah, the Wild Hunt was a Yule fixture quite often, as well as a Halloween one. Basically, from roundabout Halloween to roundabout the winter solstice, the forces of winter ran wild, and the winter solstice was sort of the mark of the peak of their powers. And then afterwards, it was thought that summer would slowly creep back in again, effectively. Moving forward.
Yuletide was traditionally celebrated during the period from mid-November to mid-January.
Yeah, again, basically from the time of Halloween through the winter solstice or so was the time when winter was most free to run wild. And as a surrogate contractor for winter, I guess, go team.
All right. Nordic countries use Yule to describe their own Christmas with its religious rites, but also for the holidays of this season. Present-day customs, such as the Yule Log, Yule Goat, Yule Boar, Yule Singing, and others stem from the original pagan Yule, but are used in Christian celebrations now, especially within Europe.
Yeah, the long and the short of it is the Yule Log was, how to phrase this? It evolved from massive bonfires that tribes would erect as a protective measure. And then when the night's bonfire was over, you would each take an ember or a twig from it and use it to spark your own fires in your home.
As leaders were baptized and converted, they shifted to traditional celebrations covertly as not to upset the chieftains. Yule was traditionally celebrated 3 days celebrated 3 days after midwinter, but shifted to reflect Christian dates.
Yeah, again, the problem with this historically is that um for some reason we want to pin down holidays to just one day. And I find it funny every time I hear somebody saying, "Oh, you celebrate this too early or too late. It's supposed to only be just that one day out of the month." And it's like, no, bitch. Holidays have always been this way. The only brief time they weren't this way was in the late 19th and early 20th century, and that was mostly because of Cromwell and his cronies repressing the holiday so much that it took a while for people to get back into the swing of it. Yeah. Anyway, moving forward.
Modern Wiccans and other neo-pagan religions often celebrate Yule as well. In most forms of Wicca, it's celebrated at winter solstice as the rebirth of the great horned hunter god, who is viewed as the newborn solstice sun. Some celebrate with their covens, while others celebrate at home.
Yeah, there's all sorts of associations as far as the Yule Spirit goes. Like I said, the most tidy one is the Holly King or Gwenethna, or Gwenethna rather. But it's also loosely associated with Bacchus, Dionysus, even Pan. I see gets a mention every now and then, although usually Pan doesn't quote unquote show up until after the festivities are over because Pan and Cernunnos, the hunter gods, are typically associated with summer and springtime, and essentially, like I said, if Halloween is meant to mark the beginning of winter's reign over the world, as it were, then the winter solstice itself is meant to mark the peak of their power, and therefore after the winter solstice is when winter's forces sort of pull back from the world and summers begin to make their way back in. Is the logic? But yes, everyone from Pan to Cernunnos to the King of the Goblins, known as the Earl King in Germanic folklore, has been said to join in the revelry of the winter solstice / Yule / Saturnalia before. Anyway, moving on.
Magical gift givers. Everybody's got someone like Santa Claus. He's primarily based on Saint Nicholas, a 4th century Lycian bishop from modern-day Turkey. Old Nicky wasn't a bad guy. One story says that he met a kind, impoverished man who had 3 daughters. Saint Nick presented all 3 of them with dowries so that they weren't forced into a life of prostitution, as dowries were expected to pay off families to take on the daughters.
Okay, this is a bit of a misnomer here, and I'm going to have to tidy this up a bit, because much in the same way as the old traditions would get Christianized, so would the old gods a lot of time. That's why you see
Well,
figures like...
she's not done yet.
Oh, well, okay. Let her finish then.
Alright, Sinterklaas is the Dutch figure, and Odin is the Norse god that Santa resembles. It wasn't just Santa or men who did the gift giving in those myths. There's also the legend of La Befana, a kind Italian woman who leaves treats for children on the good list, and the Germanic Frau Holle, who treats women during solstice.
Again, Frau Hole is probably one of the names for Mab, or rather the being who we now refer to as Mab. Same thing with La Befana. She was originally considered to be a fae, or fairy. But in any case, much in the same way as the old traditions got Christianized, so would the old gods. So you take a being like Brigid, for example. In the lore of the Irish Catholics, she's known as Saint Brigid. Basically, whenever Christians got a hold of a divine or quasi-divine entity, they would either they would scale them down as either a fae, a demon, or a saint, because of course monotheism doesn't allow for multiple gods. But nevertheless, gods and fae are what they, broadly speaking, are. But yes, the ones we're broadly talking about are the Yule Spirit or the Winter Spirit, which is again most commonly referred to as either the Holly King or Gwenabnud, and may or may not have ties with Odin. And then the female equivalent is the same thing, but for a female entity, usually the one that I know best as Map. But she's been known as everything from Nick Naven to Holda to Perchta to Lobby Fauna, although I didn't until just now make that connection. I can't believe it took me that long. Although I do find that a little bit weird, and I'd be interested to ask her if that is actually her, because I don't typically associate Mab with being particularly gift-oriented, but then again, I guess Christmas does fall under her jurisdiction, so, or rather the Yuletide does, and so if that comes from anywhere, it had to have gotten her blessing, otherwise it wouldn't have happened. So yeah, maybe she has some reason for being overly kind during that period, but I'm not going to assume that I know her better than the history does. I just go where the lore goes. Moving on.
Yeah, oh yeah, fruitcake. I've never had fruitcake.
I made it once in a cooking class, but I don't think I ate any of it. I should try to make some this year, because it is.
No, wait. I think I did have some. I just didn't like it. Like when I was super young.
I remember really liking the one we made in cooking class, but it wasn't a very like old school traditional one. It was pretty good. It had coconut and stuff in it, which I always like coconut. It's good. Anyway, moving on.
I think it was like a store-bought one we got or something. Yeah, it wasn't good.
Yeah, I know. I think I know what she's going to say, which is that it comes from Panforte, which is a medieval fruitcake that was heavily spiced, usually with either brandy or rum, and it was.
You'd think so. When people rarely show any excitement around the fruit-laden cakes these days, people rarely show any excitement around the fruit-laden cakes these days, they were a real treat in times of yore. The cakes actually have origins in Egypt and were later disseminated by the Romans as they conquered parts of Europe.
I mean, there's also the medieval Panforte and the English plum pudding, which have direct ties to modern day fruitcake, but that's neither here nor there.
Okay. Those cakes of Egypt were just about as dense and long-lasting as the brandied, fruit-studded cakes of today. Egyptians placed cakes of fermented fruit and honey on the tombs of their deceased loved ones so that they'd have something to munch on in the afterworld.
I mean, that's true, but there's very little anthropological evidence to suggest it ties to the fruitcake that we know. The fruitcake that we know was a offering that was usually left for ancestors and spirits during Yule or the winter solstice festivals in the case of the Celts. And it became and fruitcakes in general became very popular in the Middle Ages, as basically the like medieval equivalent of like an energy bar for travelers, particularly knights. because they didn't have refrigeration, and so they loaded down their cakes with brandy so that it lasted for freaking ever. And of course, the fruit is symbolic of plenty, and the way it's candied has particular significance. And even in some cases, the way you stir a fruitcake when you're making it has particular significance. Like I know of one English tradition where, or maybe it's Germanic, or probably one of those things that crosses over between both of them. But in some traditions, uh, each member of the household was supposed to take turns stirring it, and you were supposed to stir it clockwise so as to essentially churn up good luck. And the lore went that if everyone in the household stirred the cake clockwise before baking it, that the entire household would have good luck for the next year. Moving on.
Yeah. Okay. Romans took similar cakes into battle, made of mashed pomegranates and barley. Christians went into the Crusades with honey cakes. Fruit cakes are everywhere, no matter how hard you try to avoid them.
Like I said, I've only had them once, and the one I had I liked. But then again, I also haven't had a very traditional one. So honestly, one of these years I'm probably gonna just make one myself, because I've gotten recently into the study of historical cookbooks, and there's a couple fruitcake recipes in there. Although I'd probably start with plum pudding, because that's the oldest one that has direct ties to Christmas.
I won't lie, the only pudding I like is butterscotch.
You are not wrong.
Yeah,
Butterscotch.
like I told people that I like butterscotch, and they, I get like a weird look sometimes.
I like it too, and I don't understand what people's problem is. Butterscotch is delicious.
I think it's like those type of candies are kind of associated with more older folk.
Right, yeah. But to be fair, those kind of candies aren't really a good reflection of the flavor of butterscotch, really.
Yeah, it's good.
But
It's good.
typically, what we mean when we say pudding as an American is not what the English mean by pudding. Pudding was basically any like a liquid that had congealed into a solid form, essentially, and usually they had like bread and things in them. Most puddings more closely resemble like what we would now call a bread pudding than the custards that we Americans are familiar with.
Yeah. All
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, most English puddings actually more resemble. I don't know if you've ever seen gelatin desserts.
Yes, I think.
But yeah, that kind of thickening into a congealed mass is what denotes a pudding in English tradition.
All right, moving on.
Yeah, moving on.
All right. Caroline. Caroline actually began as the Germanic and Norse traditions of wassailing,
Waffling.
Wassailers went from home to home, drunk off of their asses, singing to their neighbors and celebrating their good health, except for the hangovers.
Well, yeah, that's what the word wassail means. In modern day, wassail is like a Christmas punch, basically. But the word wassail comes from the Old English vassal, which in turn comes from the Old Norse and Old German vasheil, which means in good health or to your health.
Mm.
That's why one of my favorite Christmas carols is "Here We Come a Wassailing."
I've never in my entire life I've never seen carolers. Granted,
I've never really seen them either, but then again, I live in the most rural part of Pennsylvania possible.
well, also, I live in the ghettos. So
Yeah,
no,
so
yeah,
you're
no one.
not getting carolers because people are assuming they're gonna get shot.
Well, that and also, it gets fucking cold here too, even in the city, man.
Yeah.
And, like, no one's gonna be like walking up to someone's house and fucking snow and shit to say what
Yeah, no. Caroling is the one. Like, I love Christmas carols and I enjoy singing Christmas carols, but the actual tradition of going out and caroling is
okay.
not worthwhile. Sorry.
Okay, so the traditional wassail beverage was a hot mulled cider spiked with alcohol or fermented.
Yeah, usually it was a hot apple cider with an egg foam on top because apples and eggs were both synonymous with plenty and good health in German symbolism. But usually waffling was done by beggars in the same vein as souling for um for Samhain or Halloween because obviously in a time of plenty those that don't have much kind of need to um go looking for some charity. That's why one of the verses of Here We Come Wassailing is we have some little purses made of wretched leather skin. Give us some of your small change to line them well within. That song is such an epic troll, and I love it so much. Just the poor go to the rich and are like, give us shit because it's Christmas, goddammit. Oh, I love wassailing so much as a concept. Moving on.
Yep. All right, mistletoe. And again, that's the thing I've never really seen. Like, even when I've gone to like other people's houses, I've never really gone to other people's houses for Christmas. December, sure, but I've never seen that really ever.
Mm.
Probably
Yeah,
nowadays.
most people probably use fake mistletoe rather than actually going and getting
Like not
real actual
no,
mistletoe.
like no mistletoe at all. Not even fake ones. I don't see them ever. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't see them very often either. I mean, we put a couple up just because it's interesting symbolism. But the interesting thing is, and this always made me laugh about putting mistletoe up in the holidays. Maybe it was some kind of protective measure back in the day because according to German folklore, um, mistletoe is one of the only things that can kill a Norse god.
Yeah, I remember with Balder, who died because of it.
Yeah. Frigga found that Baldur was fated to die, and so she went around making sure that every living creature agreed not to kill him. And she got to mistletoe, and she apparently thought to herself, again, this is according to the story, that little thing is so irrelevant that I don't even need to ask. And then Loki, being Loki, found out that mistletoe was the only thing that agreed not to, or that didn't agree not to kill him, and made a dart out of mistletoe, and no more Baldur.
Mm-hmm. All right, so mistletoe was considered a magical plant in Europe, especially among Druids and Vikings, and holds significance in Native American cultures. That I didn't know.
Yes. Yep.
Mistletoe is no modern quirk of Christmas. Even Romans partook in fertility rituals beneath the mistletoe.
Yep.
Okay. Not gonna ask about that.
You have to keep in mind that the two strongest associations of Christmas in the Roman, or the two strongest surrogates for them, were Saturnalia, which was a festival of a freaking Titan that basically it involved agriculture and anarchy, and then the other frequent association with Christmas was the Bacchanal, or the festival of Dionysus, and Dionysus was the party god.
Yeah. Well, no, I kind of figured what fertility rituals meant. I don't really think we need to go into like detail about that. I'm sure everyone can guess what that is.
Yeah. The long and the short of it is, every frat party on Earth would be ashamed compared to one of Dionysus's parties.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Not everyone took it that far. This still stood as a neutral ground for feuding Norse tribes who laid down their weapons in order to negotiate beneath the sexy peace plant. Okay.
Well, again, the main reason why it always got employed was probably because it's allegedly one of the only things that can kill a god within that tradition. So
Mm,
they probably used it um to hold each other's gods at gunpoint, being like, if you don't come to our peace talks, we'll kill your god.
yeah.
Really, really fucked up when you think about it.
Okay, so the druids thought it could protect them from thunder and lightning as well.
Yep.
Are druids? Well, I understand druidism or
You had it right.
okay, druidism uh, was a culture, but I kind of assumed druids were part of other cultures as well.
The term druid is the term that was applied to the magician priests of the Celts. So like they're spiritual, magical, and religious figures.
Okay. All right. Whether you've got the urge to make out, hide from a storm, or talk it out, beware. Mistletoe is super poisonous. The glass variety is a great substitute, or make it out of paper or fabric to keep your furry and or small loved ones safe.
And again, lest you think this is only a human problem, apparently, according to German and Norse folklore, mistletoe is so powerful that it can literally kill gods, or at least severely weaken them.
Yep. Uno?
Moving on.
All right. Wreaths. Romans loved wreaths and decorate everything with laurel. Holly, ivy, and evergreen are the more popular modern options today, and each one holds significance. Egyptians didn't have evergreens, so they used palm fronds to celebrate winter solstice.
Yep. Again, these things are human universals.
Yeah.
One of the amazing things I like about these holidays is, it amazes me how many cultures that didn't have any impact or any major confluence with each other independently came to these conclusions.
Mm-hmm. Uh, Moving on, or
Uh, just a minor thing. The reason why we use holly now is because holly is the plant that is most heavily associated with winter and the solstice, and of course, um, in the Celtic adjacent pantheon, the avatar of spring was considered the Oak King, and the avatar of winter was considered the Holly King. So that's part of the reason why holly, because it's heavily associated with the wonders and plenties of winter.
mm-hmm.
Moving on.
Christians love holly because the red berries symbolize the blood of Christ, and the pointy leaves symbolize the crown of thorns. However,
No, that is a complete Christian invention. It was being used many thousands of years before that, because again,
Mhm.
it has explicit ties with winter, and the most neutral name for the winter spirit is literally the Holly King.
Mhm.
It's because it grows in the winter after the oak dies or goes dormant.
Yeah. All right. Pre-Christian pagan groups believe that the Holly King did battle with the Oak King. They also thought Holly could drive off evil spirits.
Yep.
There you go.
And it's funny because the most modern surrogate for the Oak King is Cernunnos, who is also heavily associated with Pan and also the Germanic Earl King. And the funny thing is, the Earl King and the Holly King are both associated with the Wild Hunt. And sometimes there's even been stories of them riding together. So as much as they do battle with one another, I don't think it's an adversarial relationship. I think they just enjoy beating the crap out of each other for fun.
Mhm.
And funnily enough, this is one of the things that the Dresden Files gets very, very right, because the two closest friends among the Fey courts appear to be the Earl King and Kringle, who is of course Santa Claus. It's one of the things I find absolutely fucking hilarious. Moving on.
Romans, of course, were into laurel wreaths. While laurel was not easily procured throughout the northern reaches of the empire, instead of laurel, they used evergreens.
Yeah.
Uh,
The logic, of course, being is winter is the time of death and rebirth, and so the things you want to safeguard and maintain during that time are the things that don't change with the seasons, the things that are evergreen. It's why we bring in trees into our homes for Christmas, because the Celtic understanding was the vital spark of nature, quote unquote, was dying, and so you brought a tree into your home in order to kind of preserve that spark, so that when spring rolled around again, it could be reignited.
mhm. uh, this Christmas, no matter what your beliefs are, smile knowing that it's come from a long line of traditions, much older than we have typically been told. Traditions that celebrate bounty, survival, and unwinding. Just make sure you end up on the nice list unless naughty is your thing.
I I think I could get along with the person who wrote that, because yeah, that's basically my approach to Christmas, is just, acknowledge it for what it is, which is an ancient festival of hearth, home, and plenty. And of course, now, being as I'm on winter's payroll effectively, I have even more reasons to be on that side. Because I'm pretty sure that if I didn't, I'd wind up with spontaneous hypothermia out of nowhere. Moving on. Waiting for the next thing to load.
That, and also I had to throw away my pop can.
Uh-huh. What you drinking today?
Cherry cola.
Uh-huh.
All right. Okay, so this is from the globeandmail.com.
Yes.
That's a weird name for a website.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah. Are You Oppressed by Christmas? Blame the Patriarchy. It's by Margaret Wente. Wente?
Yeah.
Went, I guess. And this was published December 20th, 2018. So,
The short answer to that is no and no. I am not oppressed by Christmas, and I wouldn't blame the patriarchy for it, even if I were.
to be fair, I think this was written for, a female audience in mind.
Well, certainly a feminist audience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We are neither.
Yeah, no. In fact, I, broadly speaking, consider myself an egalitarian and anti-feminist and a men's rights advocate. So, yeah.
I'm indifferent.
Uh-huh.
Well, not indifferent, but I more so don't care enough to really say what really care about
Yeah.
where.
You're not on anybody's side,
Nope.
which is a perfectly sensible position, to be fair.
And a lot of stupid on both sides. So
Uh-huh.
anyway, this is like the one that I read through a bit, and I knew we had to cover it.
Yeah, because this is some weapons grade stupidity right here, folks.
It's not even stupid. It's just I don't think it really has. There's no point to it.
Yeah.
You know, that's the biggest problem I can have with an article. Like, it can be stupid as long as it has
As long as it at least bothers to make a point somewhere. The point itself can be dumb, but at least having a point. Whereas some articles just like to hear themselves talk.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah. Okay, so shall we?
Yep.
All right. I live in a gendered household, for better or for worse. The domestic division of labor is broken down along the standard male-female lines. I cook, he cleans. I'm in charge of our social calendar. He's in charge of turning on the TV, finding movies on Netflix, and knocking me off the ledge when I have a computer malfunction on deadline and am bursting into tears. Even though he is almost as technically illiterate as I am, I expect him to fix it. Okay?
Then this brings up an interesting question of, if you are so comfortable with these traditional roles, then why in all the fucks are you still a feminist? Like, pick one. Either be happy with your traditional, gender roles, or subvert the gender roles and be a feminist. You have, like,
Right, and sorry.
I hate when people don't follow through on their own ideas. Like, either let your life shape your ideas, in which case abandon the feminism, or let your feminism shape your life, in which case you probably should do something about that division of labor there.
Mhm. I mean, full disclosure, I don't know how to cook, but that's because. And the funny thing is, like, I come from like two generations of cooks in my family.
guess the chef gene skipped a generation.
Yeah, like it's my grandmother and my uncle, and yeah, me. I mean, I can kind of cook some things, like simple things,
Mm-hmm.
kind of. Although, don't expect me to make good eggs because I end up kind of burning them most of the time. And tell me, time.
I think you just need a good way of learning how to
Well,
cook.
my creativity isn't really in like a kitchen. It's more so in writing, you know?
Right. Well, but even so, even a complete cooking illiterate can learn how to cook if they have uh the right recipes and the right teacher. So I would highly recommend, for anyone who doesn't know how to cook but wants to, there is a cooking show hosted by a guy by the name of Alton Brown called Good Eats. It is by far and away the best cooking show. Also, some cooking things that are worth paying attention to. There's a channel on YouTube that primarily specializes in historic recipes called Tasting History, and it is glorious. There's also a channel called Townsend that does a similar thing with regards to historical cooking, and it's awesome. So yeah, there are resources to learn how to cook, and even if um, you never get creative with your cooking, some things are as simple as following the right recipe.
Right. I also wanted to mention this, like the whole gendered household thing.
Uh-huh.
I didn't really have that growing up, and I've told Dalton a little bit about my family history and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like the head of our family was my grandmother.
Mm-hmm.
And I've told Dalton many times, like she was a good lady, but also like you do something wrong, she will put the fear of God.
Yeah, yeah. And my mom was very much the same way. She is very much the matriarch of our household. And yeah,
But
I never really got the whole gendered thing either. It's just
yeah,
like
but also like
it makes
with
go
my
ahead.
family, it was more so everyone does their part to pitch in around the house and stuff.
Yeah, it's like if it works for you, then do it. If it doesn't, then don't.
Okay. Also, I had I had an extended family more so than a regular like nuclear family deal.
Yeah.
So
For me, it was for me for the longest time it was my mom, my stepdad, and my two brothers. But of course, you know, things happened with my stepdad, and for basically until basically I want to say junior year of high school, all the way up to now, it's been me and my mom and my brothers. We make it work.
yeah, it's I don't get me wrong. I'm sure there are gender roles in a household. Sure, that that just happens. Like
Yeah, I mean, here's the dirty little secret about gender roles. The reason why women do most of the household work and men do the outside work is because they psychologically prefer it that way.
oh
In general, in general, women prefer work that they can do domestically, and men prefer work they can do externally.
yeah. Anyway, that was a weird tangent we went on there, but
Hmm.
okay. Like most women, I do most of the emotional work. For example, I give him a heads up when our anniversary is getting near. He knows the month, but not the date. He's not quite sure of the year we got married. Okay, that just sounds like typical stuff, really. For
Yeah, that sounds like you may have found yourself
like,
a bit of a ditzy guy there, but it
I'm
sounds
not
like a
like
fairly normal thing.
okay. Full disclosure. Full disclosure. I forget things that are not with it. Like my grandfather and I share the same birth month, so I remember his birthday pretty easily. But my uncle, it's a little harder, man, because one, we don't really celebrate that birthday often. He does his own thing with like his own friends and stuff.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, sometimes it's like when you don't, it's a complicated thing. Like if you don't
And there's also
do,
the fact that in general, anniversaries matter more to women than they do to men.
wow, wow, Dalton,
Again,
wow.
again, I specify in general, but it's always been women's prerogative to manage the social lives of a community, and it's always been men's prerogative to manage the professional, military, and, for lack of a better word, external lives of the community. And in general, men and women prefer it that way.
Okay. Uh, Yeah, like most women, I do the emotional work, for example. I give him the heads up. When anniversary's getting near, he goes, "Mom, yeah, all right, sorry, I read that.
Hmm.
I'm kind of tired."
Yeah, and I've had a very long day, so I apologize if any of my rambling in the previous section wasn't very coherent. For those that don't know, or actually, Brainstorm was pretty much the only one that would know because he was here when it happened, or I told him about it when it happened. Um, I spent from about 6:30 until 7 today, doubled over in pain because my kidneys were felt like somebody was punching them for some reason. I got up to go to the bathroom, and I made it into the actual bathroom before I was doubled over in pain so badly I was flat on the floor and sweating like a motherfucker. So today has been a very, very hard day for me.
Yeah. Let's hope it's not kidney stones.
I hope so. But honestly, I'm more worried about it being a kidney function issue because when I was younger, I used to hold my pee a lot, and that's never good.
Actually, you're not the only one.
So
I
yeah,
don't. Yeah, like, don't do that, kids. Don't do that. That is.
yeah, it's a bad thing. It is a very, very bad thing.
The times when I had to, that was mainly because like I was in school and stuff. And I had to wait
Yeah,
for.
I never ever used the bathroom when I was in school.
No, it
I
wasn't.
always
I could like most times when I had to use the restroom, it was because like it was like in the middle of class and like we were in the middle of a lesson and stuff, and I didn't want to be rude and interrupt the lesson, so I had to wait for.
I just didn't like using the bathroom at school in general. I always waited until I got home
Also,
to pee.
well, again, to be fair, I feel like you would have to sit down to use the restroom. I could stand, so I could just use the urinals.
This is true.
Yeah.
Although, to be fair, I don't think I would have a massive problem peeing standing up if I wanted to. It was just never comfortable for me. Like, even peeing out in the middle of the woods sometimes if we would go, like, camping or something would always make me feel awkward. I prefer to sit down.
Yeah.
And this is the second weirdly personal soliloquy we've got on today. Jesus Christ.
Okay. Moving on. Yeah, again, do not hold your pee, kids. If you can, just use the restroom when you feel the urge to.
Yeah, it's bad. It's very, very bad. And I am now, or I was recently, paying the price for it. Hopefully it won't happen again for a few months, but still, I literally could not breathe for a bit there. It's bad. Moving on.
Yeah. Okay, Christmas is always emotionally demanding. I fret. He puts up the tree, I make lists, shop and cook, spruce up the place with festive candles and boughs of holly, and think about what to get my sister. He snoozes on in blissful oblivion until December 20th, when he suddenly springs to life and asks, "What should we get my sister?" Yeah, that honestly, that sounds
That
really,
sounds like a fairly normal Christmas to me. I'm not gonna like
dude. I can't tell you how many times my. Well, to be fair, my family doesn't really do that. I mean, we kind of more wait I think we do it like a week before, or even a little more, like 2 or so weeks
Mm.
to do Christmas shopping. Like personally, I think it's just because one, we don't. Again, like when you, like personally, I would prefer to do Christmas shopping at the beginning of December. You know, like this like first week,
Mm-hmm.
just to avoid all the stuff.
Yeah. I try to do my Christmas shopping as early as I can, especially recently because Amazon has proven itself over the course of COVID to be extremely unreliable recently. So I needed to make sure that I got my mom and my brother's gifts as early as possible so that they would actually be here on time.
I will say
And
this.
I have my mom and my middle brother's gifts done. The only one I haven't done the shopping for yet is my youngest brother, and that's because he won't tell me what to get him.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. That's also why, because my family sometimes. I'm not gonna lie. The family I have right now is like they're kind of hard to get stuff for a bit. Most of the time, we just kind of give each other money. So like it's a bit sad. I'm not gonna lie, but you know, it just again, we're kind of not. We're not like big spenders.
Mm.
You know. I mean, I told you
Yeah.
what I want for Christmas.
Yes, you did, and I was momentarily sad. And I know it'll make you happy, and I know everything, but I always prefer for holidays to be special. So
I'm
I
practical.
always
You know.
yeah I always save the most impossible / unreasonable things for Christmas, specifically because I know that's the most likely time to get it.
Yeah, that's kind of what I do.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like you just gave me a sad look when I said that.
A bit. a bit.
Look, I'm a simple guy. I don't need a lot. Okay.
Yeah, I
I'm
know,
not
but
a drama queen.
still, I always prefer, even when I'm shopping for other people, I prefer to spoil people. So it's I like things to be special. And if I ever am near you on either your birthday or Christmas, I am going to find something that is going to wow you, because that's just how I work.
Again, I'm
I
just
don't
look, I'm a practical.
I don't feel right unless there is that wow factor there.
Also, Norm, you also keep this in mind. I'm not a material kind of guy. Not really.
I know. But everyone has something that will make them say wow. So, I feel like that's when it comes to getting gifts for other people, that's always kind of my job, is something whatever it is, it'll be something that makes them say wow.
Well, good luck wasting all your money then.
I honestly don't spend money except for on Christmas and occasionally people's birthdays, so
Okay, so we gotta do this. Okay,
sidebar, moving on.
okay, have things changed much among the next generation? Apparently not. Who does Christmas in your house? I asked my friend Susie, who's 25 years younger. You have a friend who's 25 years younger than you. How fucking old would she be then?
That's a bit odd, yeah. That's unusual.
Oh, it's 99% me. She laughed. She didn't seem oppressed, but she might be if she read more progressive journalism. No one read progressive journalism. It's not journalism.
And no one should read progressive journalism for this exact reason. It will make you unnecessarily miserable and discontent with things that you were previously content with. And not because you're secretly gaslit into doing these things, but because, regardless of what you may think, love, you do the things you do typically because you want to.
Okay,
And
let's be honest here. Let's be honest. If a guy, more or less like a regular average Joe, were to try and plan out Christmas, like everything for Christmas, he'd fuck it up royally.
yes,
Like,
and what's more,
speaking as a
it,
guy, we're
yeah,
kind of stupid. Like, no
yeah,
cap, we're
and,
kind of fucking stupid.
and what's more, his significant other would probably micromanage everything regardless,
Yeah.
because women like being in control of the domestic sphere, especially when it comes to festive or important times, because women are more socially minded than men are. That's the long and the short of it.
You know what's weird? It kind of reminds me of a Family Guy skit that I saw.
Mm-hmm.
Where Lois beats the crap out of Peter because he went and bought groceries, and that's her thing. And
Yeah.
like, he says, "I thought you told me to do it." I'm paraphrasing, of course, because it's been a while since I've seen it. But the thing that started out with me is like, I like saying it more than I like you doing things. You know.
And as stupid as Family Guy, especially modern Family Guy, can be, they occasionally hit on something. And
Yeah.
another famous Family Guy bit at this point is the famous "men, we don't know what we did" thing.
Yeah. I won't lie, man. Modern Family Guy just seems so fucking like depressing, which I think is also because, again, it's more so Seth MacFarlane being forced to really
Yeah,
work.
he doesn't want to do Family Guy anymore. He wants to fuck off and go and play with his Orville-shaped toys, but they won't let him.
Yeah.
And as a fan of the Orville, I fully support Seth MacFarlane's right to fuck off and go and play with his um, Orville toys, because I want more seasons of the Orville, please.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, we are going on some tangents here.
Yeah.
All right, moving on, or did you?
Yeah. Move along. Yeah.
Okay. Holiday magic is made by women, and it's killing us. Reads one headline on a 2017 piece by Gemma Hartley, who wrote an entire book, Fed Up, on the underappreciated emotional labor of women. Underappreciated. Okay, in certain situations, sure, but
I find it like because this is the thing. Like, because I know what you're getting at. Because my mom was always the one that made sure that Christmas was special for us. But to be fair, when my brothers and I got old enough to where we could afford to buy her presents, we did so. And one of the things I always say is I like I always end up getting more for my mom than I get from my brothers, but that's because I like the idea of paying that forward, kind of, to spoil my mom in the same way that she always spoils us, at least as much as I can. Um, and it usually works because, again, women are more socially minded, and so they want to do it in general. But also, we all know they do it, and therefore we're appreciative of it generally. It's part of that spirit of hearth and home thing that I was talking about. One of the aspects of that is appreciating the person in your life, whether it be a significant other or whether it be a mother, that does that sort of hearth and home work. Anyway, moving forward. And now we wait for Rainstormer.
yeah, sorry, I had to disappear real quick.
No, you're good.
All right. Okay. Moving on.
Yep.
Right. I have yet to send out my Christmas cards this year, but the various steps necessary to complete this task have been weaving through my mind for months. She wrote. I booked a session with a photographer at the end of August. I picked out and shopped for outfits for the entire family in October. In November, the actual photo shoot took place, but not before a flurry of back and forth emails setting on time and place while factoring in the weather.
Okay, that doesn't even sound like normal, like, women doing Christmas things. That sounds like you making unnecessary amounts of work for yourself because you have this.
Also, full disclosure, I don't think anyone does Christmas cards that again, like average people, like
Yeah, no, that's exactly what I'm saying. It's not a normal family thing to do. It's a prissy upper crust elitist suburban thing to do because
yeah,
you have some kind of weird Desperate Housewives
yeah. I don't
image in your head. That's why it's essentially making more work for yourself than you need to. Like,
I
I
don't even
thought,
think I've seen a Christmas card before in my
huh?
life. Like I don't think I've even seen a Christmas card in my life before.
I mean, I get I get cards for Christmas from like my stepdad's grandma usually because she gives us money instead of things a lot. But
Well,
in,
yeah,
in terms of what they mean by Christmas cards, which is like basically a postcard with a family photo on it, and it's like a card from an entire family going, "Our family wishes you, happy holidays," or whatever.
God,
Like
that is
that.
so fucking pretentious.
Yeah, that stuff, that is elitist suburban nonsense that you are choosing to do for yourself more than anything because you have some kind of fucked up suburban desperate housewifey and um image in your head of what the perfect housewife is supposed to be. Well, here's a tip, love. Instead of doing that stuff, focus on, how your Christmas tree looks. If your family is happy, if you have kids, are they gonna? Because my mom does a fuck ton of work for holidays too, but it doesn't involve that kind of stuff. It involves, making sure that everyone has
Oh,
a
dude, Christmas dinner.
solid Christmas list for Christmas morning, and making sure that it, the atmosphere of Christmas is maintained by like the appropriate candles and decorations and stuff.
Dude, Christmas dinner is a bitch and a half. Like, it's even worse than Thanksgiving dinner, in my opinion.
I mean, my mom seems to have an easier time with Christmas dinner than Thanksgiving dinner, but that might be because we kind of cheat a little bit. Because on Christmas we usually have prime rib.
Oh my god, you really are hillbillies. Holy fuck.
I was wondering whether you would take that in the hillbilly direction because we have ribs for Christmas, or if you would take that in the fancy direction because we can afford prime rib, which, to be fair, we can only afford because we buy it in bulk from Sam's
Well,
Club.
to be fair, my family's thinking about getting a turkey this time instead of on. We got a ham for Thanksgiving, mainly because like every time we get a turkey, it always kind of ends up getting dry and stuff because we don't cook it. We cook it with the ham to save time.
I don't understand. Like, I know you guys have ham for some reason, but my thing is I'd prefer having turkey both times if it were up to me.
Well, to be
But
fair,
that's
again,
just
every time we've had turkey, it's like it's the turkey we get is like or like make.
yeah,
It,
it always dries out.
yeah, it always ends up being super dry. And
Yeah.
my
We actually for quite a few years had that problem, and I want to say not obviously not this Thanksgiving, but the previous Thanksgiving, my mom found a recipe from Gordon Ramsay on YouTube, and she started using it, and ever since then our turkey has been really, really deliciously moist.
yeah, we're thinking about doing that. I don't know if it's the Gordon Ramsay thing, but something like that. Like that's why, like I think we're not doing the ham for Christmas either. We're like just
Mhm.
gonna do turkey.
I
Uh,
always I always wanted to try either goose or duck for Christmas, but I'm the only one in my house that has that sort of old world um
it's
taste.
also,
So
I'm also thinking they're probably more expensive than turkeys.
duck can be, but it depends. Goose probably definitely would be unless you literally went and shot one yourself. Which, knowing my family, if I actually brought that up to my brothers the next time it was duck season or whatever, they probably would do it. But the duck that usually is sold and is meant to be like eaten is
Maybe
a different kind of duck than the kind that you can just go off and shoot.
yeah. I've never seen a duck or goose, anything besides turkey or chicken, sold in stores where I'm at. So
Well, yeah, I mean, again, this is part of the aforementioned hillbilly thing. I've seen quite a few different things, but that's because I'm in a family full of hunters.
all right.
So we've had venison, we've had I think even one time my brother tried to cook bear once when he shot one.
Yeah, and you say you're not hillbillies. Okay.
I never said we weren't. I said I personally wasn't because I don't really I'm kind of the odd duck out when it comes to that stuff. I don't really like hunting and fishing and all that stuff.
Well, neither do I, but I prefer going hiking when I used to go camping when I was younger.
I don't even particularly like camping all that much. In fact, one of my favorite childhood memories is my stepdad's mom and his sisters would go up to a campground every summer, and when we would go up to visit them, I would u- I would normally stay in the camper while everyone else was outside doing camping things, and I would watch Matilda and Space Jam. Those were the two movies that I kept watching over and over whenever we would go. So that's one of my favorite childhood memories.
Again, to be fair, you're not really built for outdoor stuff.
No, I would shatter like so much glass
Yeah.
in such a situation.
No. Anyway.
Yeah.
Oh, come on. Who does those things? Hasn't she ever heard of e-cards? This woman's problems are entirely self-inflicted. She doesn't need less patriarchy. What she needs is a good drink. I mean, yeah,
I mean, objectively correct answer as far as I'm concerned. There, that's her making more work for herself, and like even with just the regular bare bones Christmas stuff, I will concede that women, in particular mothers, do a lot of work. But the problem I have with the whole Christmas card thing is that's putting the emphasis on the wrong thing. Like if you're gonna do all this work anyway, and you probably are, focus on, making, for lack of a better word, a magic moment out of it, rather than needing to socially preen and socially grandstand of, oh look, my family does Christmas cards. Oh look, my family does, Christmas portraits and things. Like, no, that's some not only first world problems, that's some 1% of the population problems there,
Oh no,
because
I wouldn't be
that's the
opposed.
kind of shit that only rich suburban pricks do.
I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to a portrait of my entire family together.
Yeah, but it'd be something you do once and then not again, rather than
Oh yeah, no, totally.
every year for Christmas cards. And what's more, and this is the other thing I hate about all that suburban nonsense, is it has more to do with social virtue signaling than it does with actually making anyone happy. Like it's almost like it's almost like this woman has never seen National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. What was the moral there? Focus on the shit that actually makes people happy, rather than needing the social approval of your neighbors and things. And even as much as the movie Deck the Halls is a really, really bad comedy, even they kind of touch on the same thing of, like, so much of it is not about making yourself happy or living up to your own image of what a good Christmas is, but because you want to rub it in the face of your neighbors that you got the best Christmas decorations or whatever. It's bullshit. Moving on.
Yeah. Still, there's a good question here. Why, after 40 years of feminism, has so little changed? The feminist explanation is that patriarchal oppression extends its stranglehold down the generations, while the explanation is too many women are masochistic perfectionists. I
I
mean,
mean, surprisingly based position there, but yeah.
she's sort of not wrong.
Yeah, it's like, okay, I can
But
I
to
can
be
live with
fair,
this.
I'm somewhat of a perfectionist when it comes to working on things I am
Yeah,
invested
and I'm
in.
I'm as much as I just went on a tirade against the suburban, like, desperate housewives perfect neighborhood thing. When when and if I live alone, I'm probably going to be that exact person, because I love holidays. It's something that I kind of get from my mom, and I would want the perfect kind of Griswold Christmas if I had my way. And I am as Brainstormer often jokes with me, I am the fancy fucker who micromanages all the little details to try and make it as, like, grandiose and idyllic as possible. But I do that because of my own self-image. I don't really do that to prove myself to other people. I mean, I'll be happy if other people notice and if other people care. And I'm not gonna lie, if someone got jealous of my Christmas preparations, I probably would feel a little bit of twinge of satisfaction. But I don't. For one thing, I don't make extra work for myself that I personally don't want to do. And for another, when I do it, it's mostly because I want the perfect career and Ives style Christmas, not because of anyone else's desires. And that's the fundamental issue here. Either these women should take responsibility for their own desires and stop complaining, because they do the work that they personally want to do, or figure out what they want from Christmas or from these traditions and just do those. Like, the purpose of all this holiday magic stuff is to make you satisfied and make you happy. So it makes sense to do the things that you personally want to do. I just happen to have an upscale sense of that because I am, as Brainstormer often jokes with me, a fancy fucker.
I mean, to be fair, those are not the exact words I said, but close enough.
No, I believe the word you used was a picky bitch repeatedly, but never mind.
Well, that's one of the things I say to you. Yeah. Anyway, still, there's good. Alright, but that's back. Okay. The Christmas juggernaut isn't spread by men; it's spread by women's publications and by Pinterest. Does anyone use that anymore? Which bedazzle you with images of Stepford wives dressed in hand-knit reindeer sweaters, decorating cunning little Christmas cookies. Yeah, I actually used to do that with my grandmother. Like,
I think a lot of people did, and my grandma was my great grandma was the best cook in the world.
I will fight you on that with my grandmother.
I yeah. But
Yeah, like it was like, I mean, don't get me wrong, it was a pain in the ass because like we had to like she made a lot of them, like a lot of Christmas cookies, right?
mhm.
And then like for the record, she had like those cookie cutters in the shape of like Christmas trees, snowmen, I think bells as
Mhm.
well. She made like a lot of them too, like a lot.
My grandma's big thing was always peanut butter fudge, which was freaking delicious. But then again, that woman could make scrambled eggs taste gourmet for some. And the thing is, with me and my mom had both worked like crazy to figure out what the hell she did to them that made them so delicious, but we can't figure out. It's one of those they don't make them like that, and they don't make them like they used to kind of moments.
Yeah, yeah, I get that.
Yeah. Anyway, moving on.
Yeah. Well, we get stuck in another tangent.
Yeah, personal asides seem to be the order of the day here today for some reason.
But I don't really have anything to say to that. It's kind of
I I I just want to point out that it's kind of like there's something wrong in the way this is being structured. I think is the problem because by rights you should want the Courier and Ives like traditional fancy smancy Christmas, like the Christmas that would make Charles Dickens proud of himself. But like you shouldn't do it. You shouldn't feel the need to do it um out of social pressure or out of like um
I want to say obligation, but that involves
yeah
choice.
but yeah you don't want to do it out of, or you shouldn't want to do it out of some kind of weird social proof thing of needing to virtue signal to all your neighbors about how you're the best host or the best wife or the best whatever. You should want to do it because there's something inherently moving about that imagery. And the thing is, this I need to do it so my neighbors will be jealous thing
In
doesn't
movies,
make any fucking sense.
yeah, and they've done that in movies too, and it's always shown that you don't need to fucking do that.
Yeah, it's like if you want to do those things, do them for yourself. Like as I said, I am I am very very traditional isn't the right word, but I'm very grandiose and upscale in my desires when it comes to holidays. I like, reaching back through the veils of time and finding obscure Christmas traditions and using them for different things and yada yada yada. And I do the same thing with Halloween. If I had my druthers, this entire house would be um one giant Halloween town from Nightmare Before Christmas every October, and then um morph into a Hallmark movie every December. But
I feel like you're insulting yourself by saying Hallmark movie.
Well, it was just the most like if I had my druthers, we would go the straight up Victorian route, like um something straight out of A Christmas Carol. If I had my druthers, because I like, as with all holidays, I like the continuity of like the ancient traditions, you know, maintaining each other and forming new forms each generation and so on and so forth. So it for me it's basically one giant magical ritual. Holidays generally, but like that's
Alright.
because I am that kind of person. I'm the kind of person who wants the anthropological aspects of it and the historical aspects of it, and all the fancy shit is a reflection of that.
Yeah.
But it, yeah,
What I was gonna say is like, you are quote unquote that bitch.
yes, I am the bitch who does it not out of social obligation, or who doesn't want to do it to virtue signal to his friends and family, but wants to do it because there is something inherently worthwhile about doing it. But if you're not that kind of person, if you don't want to do the whole career and knives thing, then just don't do it. Or do what parts of it make you happy, and then if your neighbors or your friends um, feel like socially affronted and socially appalled by you not doing it, then perhaps you should find better friends. That's the long and the short of it. Instead of virtue signaling to this kind of suburban bullshit, just find better friends who don't judge you for that kind of shit.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Yeah. I'm realizing just how much in common I have with Clark Griswold in Christmas Vacation, and it's kind of funny. I hope to God none of my Christmas celebrations ever turn into the kind that happens in National Lampoon's Vacation, because that would genuinely make me upset. Anyway, yeah, I'm moving on.
Let's face it, men are indifferent to many women's interests, and efforts to change the men will often come to grief.
Again, objectively true.
I mean, yeah.
A bit harsh and not exactly phrased in the most charitable way, but yes, men and women are different, and their natures are different, and therefore their interests and specializations will usually be different.
Personally, I wouldn't say men are indifferent to women's interests. Like again, it's just like they're different. Obviously, it's just that's what happens.
Yeah, women are usually the ones in charge of the moral narratives and the social aspect of civilization, and men are the ones that deal with the more, for lack of a better word, practical concerns. And that,
Yep.
in general, that's how we're wired. Now, again, I am the exception because I am flamboyant as a rainbow flag wrapped in a ballet outfit. But it's because
I was gonna say some like a Rio de Janeiro Carnival parade.
yes, I am exactly that. Yeah, I am that, as Brainstormer put it, that bitch. I am that bitch. But I am also fully aware that I am not the most traditional man in the world, except in the lore aspect. That's I guess the difference between me and most people is a lot of people care about norms and tradition, whereas I care about lore instead.
All right.
Generally. Moving on.
Yep. When I was young and naive, I imagined that I, too, would have a 50-50 household where everything was equal and the man helped wrap the presents. When I moved in with my future husband, I even had a ledger to keep track of who did what, so that I could remind him when he fell short. You can imagine how that went.
It
soon went out the window.
I imagine you had many arguments about you being a brutal taskmaster and him not understanding why you were being so harsh with him.
I mean, again, to be fair, I think the major problem is lack of communication, which
Yeah, and Dresden Files actually has a really funny rant about this in the book Cold Days. Because Harry had just gotten done with talking to one of the fairy queens, and eventually he came to the conclusion that maybe it's not a human fairy communication problem, it's a men woman translation problem, because apparently he had read an article uh, about the way men think versus the way women think, and apparently women have like a five different layers um of communication when they talk, whereas men only usually have one or two. And I think that the way it concludes is Harry says to the audience, Dear women everywhere, the next time you think you're saying something to your husband and it's fairly obvious because of the subtext, just say it directly, because men aren't wired to have a five-layered conversation. It's funnier in the actual context of the book, but that's the long and the short of it is women have more white matter and therefore are better at navigating social subtleties, whereas men are more literally minded. So if you want something done, ladies, hit him over the head with a metaphorical sledgehammer. Don't don't put it in subtext and think to yourself, how could he possibly not have seen the subtext I was putting in there? Because men aren't wired for subtext, they're wired for literal translation. Moving on.
Yep. Alright. Several years I gnawed on my resentments. I blamed my husband for not getting it. I suspected him of learned incompetence, doing tasks so ineptly that he'd never be asked to do them again.
And see, this is exactly what I was just talking about. Instead of relying on him to pick up your many layers of subtext, why don't you just ask him directly what you want from him? The only thing I would agree with her on is it would be very stupid for the man not to help wrap the presents, because that was something that my mom and my stepdad always got into arguments over, because he wouldn't help her, and therefore it would always be like her up at 3 a.m. on Christmas Eve wrapping stuff, and he would just kind of sit there and watch her wrap, which just sounds stupid.
Mm.
But yeah, darling, instead of heaping the subtext on and wonder to yourself, how could he possibly be that stupid not to get it? Understand that women have more white matter. Therefore, they are more socially oriented and more capable of picking up on social cues. Men are more literally minded and therefore need to have things spelled out. It's not because they're stupid, it's because men and women communicate differently, and you have to go through the effort of understanding how men and women's brains work in order to get this done properly. Moving on.
Right. Okay. I blamed him for not having the same standards I did or caring about what I cared about. In other words, I blamed him for not being a woman. Eventually, we compromised. We're still at it. Okay.
Okay, that's fair enough. And I'm glad that she was able to kind of understand that. Again, it's not that men are stupid, it's that they have different ways of communicating and thinking than women do. And women don't, for some reason, seem to understand that, or understand that they need to translate what they want into things that men can actually understand. Moving on.
Right. I also realize that I am almost as complicit in gendered behavior as he is. Totally backed up. His problem. Tired, blown out on some godforsaken back road in Spain. I curl up into a ball while he changes it. If there is a burglar downstairs or even a noisy rodent, we both know whose business it is to protect us.
Okay, so make a decision. Are you comfortable with your gendered behavior, or are you not? If you are comfortable with it, then dispense with the ideology. And if the ideology is more important to you than your own comfort, then live accordingly. You have two possible roads you can walk down here. You just have to pick one. Either be comfortable with your gendered behavior to whatever degree you're comfortable with, or conform your behavior to the ideology you choose to adapt. But please do one of these, because cognitive dissonance pisses me right the fuck off.
Mm-hmm.
Moving on.
Okay. Relationships are trade-offs. The point isn't equality in everything. The point is enough fairness so that you believe you have a reasonable deal most of the time. Some men don't do much emotional labor, but work long hours. Some work in dirty, dangerous jobs where they are sometimes killed. Nobody writes books about how mistreated they are.
Okay, I genuine applause there. If I could actually clap, I would, because you would be amazed how many times I have had to explain that exact paradigm to people. So yeah, you get points for realizing this. I mean, it probably took you a while, but yeah, you get points for realizing this. Well done, madam.
All right, so if you two are oppressed by the patriarchy or the pernicious legacy of decades of Martha Stewart, you can give yourself the gift of liberation. Do you really want a tree? Maybe not. Hate cooking Christmas dinner? Get someone else to cook it for you. Give people the same thing every year. Scotch and cigars work at my place. Stay away from Pinterest. Never wrap a gift again. Use bags. Remember, woman is born free, and everywhere she is in chains. Don't be hurt.
I mean, you might be going a little bit far there. I think there's probably a sensible middle position where you can have the tree and maybe have the Christmas dinner, but you don't need you don't need the Christmas cards and all the suburban nonsense. Basically, the long and the short of it, focus on what makes you and your family and your friends happy, and anyone else can shove it where the sun don't shine. But yeah, you could. I don't think I don't think you need to go quite as far as you advise going there. I think there's probably a happy medium somewhere in the middle.
Right. I'm gonna be completely honest. That article really didn't have. I get what they were trying to say, but I don't think they really stuck a landing.
Well, it's because she was going she was trying to go two different directions at once. There was part of her that wanted to do the gendered behavior, quote unquote, and there was the part of her that wanted to be a good feminist, and she was caught between the two. So she was trying to have it both ways. Honestly, it seems like the first part made her happier than the second part, but I'm not trying to tell her how to live her life, but it seems like she personally enjoyed at least some of the work she did, so she should keep doing it, and if not, then, not. But
Yeah.
again, it seemed like she wanted to either go all in or all out, and it's like you can find a happy medium somewhere.
Yep. Okay. So moving on to the next thing,
Yep.
which is a trailer for something that
For the worst holiday related thing ever. I'm calling it that. I'm calling the time of artistic death on this one. This is the worst thing.
Yeah, I believe it's already out. Like the special is already out.
It's a series.
Whatever, I don't care.
Yeah, but it is out. I haven't watched it yet because I wanted to at least react freshly to the trailer before watching it, and then if I may not actually end up watching it because, as I said, this is the worst thing.
Right. Okay. So full disclosure on this. Like, because Dalton and I had a brief discussion of this, I believe, on Thursday, or was it yesterday? Whenever we hung out.
Yeah, whenever we talked about it when we hang out.
Yeah. We had a brief discussion on this. I said, and like, when I saw like a YouTube ad for it, when I was watching other videos, it seemed fine, like for an ad like a trailer ad, right?
Mm-hmm.
But mainly, I was intrigued because like there's a concept here, and I'll get more into it. That
Right.
intrigued me. I didn't really see anything else besides like the trailer ad.
Yeah, the concept I don't really have a problem with. The idea of there being like a legacy of Santas and the like North Pole being run almost like a corporation, that has some potential, and I understand why they went with it.
Yeah.
But oh my God, you guys, the way they handled it in this thing.
You know what's funny? I think they also made it like they kind of did that in Fairly Odd Parents. You remember when they did the Christmas special?
Oh yeah, you've got magic.
Yeah.
You got mail that he. God damn it! I love that Fairly Odd Parents Christmas special. Not the Wishman's one, but the one that's actually from like 1999 that I've watched ever since I was a kid.
Original Fairly Odd Parents was really good.
Yeah, late stage Fairly Odd Parents much less so, but
yeah.
The OG Fairly Odd Parents Christmas special is one of my favorite Christmas specials and one I make sure to watch every year. Especially the song. If I can't find the actual episode, I at least try to find the song because the Christmas Every Day song from Fairly Odd Parents is probably one of my favorite Christmas songs. Actually,
I will also say I love like this is a full tangent here before like I actually get into it. But with Fairly Odd Parents, I loved the Halloween special. You know, like where like the real and scary.
Yeah, real and scary. Yeah.
That's one of the songs that I really like getting stuck in my head.
Yeah, it's the same way with me and the Christmas song when the holidays roll around. I especially the intro. The intro is probably my favorite because it perfectly sums up what it's like to be a kid at Christmas. Like, you know, Christmas Day is here once more, gifts and love and joy galore, a special day that wipes the floor. When the other 364, that whole thing, it's just glorious.
Yeah.
And even the like Wanda turning into the submarine and going dive into the pool of presents. It's just that brings I'm almost crying just thinking about it. That brings back so many positive memories. Motherfucker.
Right.
Yeah. But Santa Inc. is the worst thing. Like as idyllic as the Fairly Odd Parents Christmas special is, it's almost the antimatter of Santa Inc.
I just want to say, like, the worst part is it's in stop motion. Not that I like stop motion. The problem is that this story is made in stop motion, and the stop motion looks really good.
Yeah, and it's being wasted on this thing.
Yeah.
For those that don't know, and for those that want a proper surrogate for this, if you remember what Q Force was like, that's basically this is the holiday themed version of Q-Force, more or less.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Okay.
Candy canes.
Candy canes. Feel like this doesn't deserve it, but you know.
Yeah. Theme is important. God damn it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Candy canes.
When you're a kid, there's only one day a year more special than any other day. And that day is Christmas. And we are the magic behind that day. So let's get these fucking kids some fucking presents!
You know what's weird? I
Mm-hmm.
think those opening 15 seconds
could work if it weren't for the rest of it.
Yeah, like honestly, I would so love to see kind of like an Office style for this, because I feel like that would work.
Like the elves in middle management or something.
Well, the elves within the Santa Inc. You know.
Yeah.
Everyone in a position. You know, from like the guys who make the toys to like the assembly line workers to the ones that make the presents. That
to the ones that like manage the logistics of how the actual night goes down, and like the magic department that handles all of Santa's magic for him and stuff. Yeah.
Do you remember the stealth elves that those like
Disney's Prep and Landing.
Yeah, Prep and Landing. Thank you.
Like
my mind blanked on the name.
Yeah, Prep and Landing is basically the better version of this.
Yeah, like,
and even in the Santa Claus with an E movies, the
Arthur Christmas too does this better, I think.
Yeah, Arthur Christmas is pretty good too.
Amazing.
Yeah, but yeah, I was thinking the Santa Claus specifically though, because it had those like Green Beret elves that were like the Santa's. Yeah, huh?
The coal elves or the regular elves that.
In the first Santa Claus movie where Santa ends up getting arrested, so they send in like the SWAT team elves, the ones that break the locks of the jail with tinsel, and it fires Yuletide lasers and that go.
I'm not gonna lie,
tinsel, not just for decoration. Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, it's been a while since I've seen the Santa Claus.
You need to fix that.
Well, to be fair, it really is only on TV, and I don't have cable anymore.
That's true. Although, I mean, it is on Disney Plus.
I don't have.
Although you don't have that. God damn it. I'll see if I can find it on one of the streaming services you do have, so you can watch it again.
I just have Netflix, dude. Just Netflix.
Ah. Well. Yeah. Damn. Anyway.
Yeah. Candy canes.
Candy canes.
This is the hardest working man in Snowman. Good golly, he's jolly. Our own Santa Claus. Hey, Merry Christmas. Whoa. You're on my naughty list.
Listeners, sir, more American kids believe in you than they do in vaccines or the Holocaust.
That I get, but like I get the edgy humor, which is Seth Rogen's deal and all, but this doesn't work. It's so jarring, you know.
It literally sounds like they want to remove any joy of the concept of like cynical Christmas things can work. Like Jim Carrey's Grinch. That was all about how like the facade of Christmas was kind of a facade and stuff.
Right. That's a Christmas classic in my opinion.
Yeah. And in the third Santa Claus movie with Jack and how he kind of viewed the holiday as just a means to an end, like that also worked better than this. But you have to, like, the point shouldn't be to dump on Christmas itself. The point should be to dump on people's stupid, vapid, like, unnecessary reactions to it. Like, this was the whole point of the National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, was that trying to be the perfect suburban, like, again, the Desperate Housewives aesthetic of Christmas was too much to ask, and that it was putting the emphasis on the wrong thing. But with this, it almost seems like this is the movie that parents would show to their, or actually, it's even worse than that. This is the movie that the edgy, bratty kids who first figure out, who are the first ones to figure out that Santa doesn't exist, will show to everyone else in the class to completely dump on Christmas.
Okay.
Yeah, candy canes.
Yeah, candy canes.
That's great. I mean, disheartening for America, but great for us.
I'm here from the North Pole Times.
Have you decided who will succeed you, Santa Claus? Subtext, Santa Cold, and knocking on death's door? Fuck you.
Good question.
Serious thought.
Was that really necessary?
I feel like that should have been saved for the actual show.
Is it? Yeah.
But also, yeah, like, it's weird. Like, don't get me wrong. I get what Seth Rogen's trying to do.
Yeah, and again, like, South Park has done this successfully like 50 times. And even like American Dad and hell, Family Guy did this better. The kind of cynical thing. But the thing about cynical takes on Christmas is there needs to be a contrasting element with them. Like, again, what you're dumping on is not Christmas itself. What you're dumping on is superficiality. But the whole reason why you're supposed to dump on the superficiality is because the superficiality is in some way a betrayal of Christmas. Like a betrayal of what Christmas actually is supposed to be or supposed to mean, or it's the point of those kind of cynical Christmas specials is supposed to be, we got so caught up in being grown up and being cynical that we forgot the childhood wonder and the holiday magic of it all. That's supposed to be the like core of most of those cynical Christmas type movies. But you appear to be saying that all of Christmas, the entire thing, is just cynical and superficial. And if that is what you're implying, Mr. Rogan, then so much fuck you that I can't even contain.
To be fair, he is.
I know it's not his fault. It's whoever casted him in this role, I think.
Oh no, he made this.
Well, then definitely fuck you, sir.
Well, he's also Jewish, so.
Yeah, but the ironic thing, atheists. I've known many atheists who celebrate Christmas. Want to know why? Because regardless of the religious aspect of it, which, as we've just covered, really isn't even that old or that important, Christmas traditions are worth doing kind of on their own, for their own sake. It's why they keep getting rebranded and recycled, because the reasons you do them might come and go, but the traditions are worthwhile for their own sake.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I've also known Jewish people who celebrate Christmas. I've known Jewish people who celebrate both Hanukkah and Christmas because Christmas is awesome.
Yeah.
It's basically the long and the short of it.
I do want to say, like, in the trailer, like in the ad trailer that I saw.
Mm-hmm.
This moment was just cut down. Like they took out the part where Santa says "fuck you" and all that, and it's literally just who would be succeeding you, and then we'll give it some serious thought. Ho ho ho, bye. Which I think works better, to be honest. Mainly one.
It would have worked better if it were either or, but not both.
Yeah, like with the character's face animation and the inflection in the voice, like you just get like he doesn't want to answer that question,
Mm-hmm.
Like I think there's another thing that again I think I've mentioned this before. It's like things I hate with like modern like writing today and like media
Mm-hmm.
is the lack of subtlety.
Well, and the forced nature of the
I mean, I thought that went without saying, but it was just more so. And like there was subtlety here, and like again in the ad trailer that I saw on YouTube, it worked.
It left it ambiguous enough that you didn't feel like somebody beat you with a sledgehammer to get the message across.
Yeah, it's just. Anyway, shall we?
Candy canes.
Candy canes.
Hi.
There have been many Santa Clauses throughout history. Some were loved, others loathed. But the position of Santa has mostly been a white man's game.
Exactly, it's fucking crazy. Things have got to change.
My advice to you is,
Okay.
Jesus fucking Christ.
Fucking hell. Okay.
One.
Dear pseudo-intellectual activist pricks, the reason why Santa has always been a white male is because, irrespective of the fact that much of the Christianized Santa imagery comes from St. Nicholas, who was Turkish, so by rights he should kind of be Middle Eastern. In the Middle Ages, the majority of Christians were found in the British Isles and in Western Europe, and therefore even the saints that come from elsewhere were usually treated as white. The further reason why Santa is usually a white male is because, irrespective of the St. Nicholas thing, the actual traditions of Santa Claus and the lore of Santa Claus and so on come from the Yule Spirit that is predominantly taken from the Celts, Gwen Adnoth, or Gwen Adnod, which again, Celtic, or Odin, and the Yule traditions from that corner of the world. And the Vikings are white as snow, and so are their gods. Sorry. So yeah, the reason why Santa is a white male is because the figures that inspired Santa Claus, whether they be Christian or pre-Christian, are white male entities. Deal with it.
But God, that's so stupid.
Yeah.
Because to me, I've always, since it's elves, I've kind of always assumed Santa was, at the very least, somewhat human.
Yeah.
So you could have done like a human game or something. Now, that's just like
you could have made this a little bit more. You could have made this a little bit more subtle and a lot less infuriating if the elves were wondering why a human had to do it.
It's going to open the door to a lot of interesting things,
Yeah.
My God.
And again, not to be a bitch, but this concept of Santa as a mantle has been handled a lot better in places like the Santa Claus or in Arthur Christmas. Yeah.
I think there was another one. I think of it right now.
But to be fair, most versions of Santa, the reason why Santa is white and male is because it's always been one dude and he's immortal, either by elf magic or because he himself is an elf.
Again, and also I don't want to bring this up because again, you and I have discussed this before stream. I don't know if it's in like the full like Marvel comics, but Marvel Santa Claus, at least the version that I saw on TV when they did like a holiday special a few years back for the Avengers, like really crappy Avengers cartoons that they made.
Mm-hmm.
He was Santa, or I don't know what name Thor called him because like it was like a very Norse name of some kind. I can't remember what it was. But Santa. He was the byproduct of a Asgardian and frost giant. Like he's a spawn of an Asgardian frost giant.
Mm-hmm.
Hence why he looks the way he does. Also, he's just super badass. Like he looks really fucking cool.
Yeah. Santa is a badass in the Marvel universe. Although there's like 3 of them. There's another Santa Claus who is a reality bending mutant in some versions.
I heard about that one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Have they ever done Krampus?
In Marvel, I don't think so. I know they have in Hellboy though.
Yeah. Anyway, candy canes.
Candy canes.
Oh, if I die, get rid of my boy!
I want to be the next Santa.
If this is your dream, you have to please make your case, bitch.
You gotta get antidote that jolly bitch. I know you're right, but do you really have to call me bitch every time you say something?
Yes, bitch, because it's empowering.
Hey,
I want to let that line finish.
yeah.
Oh, you bitch.
I mean, to be fair, they're not wrong.
Like
that's a good joke.
Yeah, it's a good joke, but in the context of this, it kind of it wasn't presented right. Because I think what it is because the main elf there has such a cynical monotone, she can't, like, it doesn't work as a, like, usually these kind of jokes require one straight character, and by straight character I mean in the comedic sense, not in the sexuality sense, and one comedic character. And I think if the main elf had a more over the top way of delivering that, then that would be more funny. But because she sounds cynical and disinterested when she says it, it's like it feels like the writers themselves put that joke in there because they almost were looking for their own out. And it reminds me of something that the mysterious Mr. Enter usually says, and I don't always agree with him when he says it, but I think it works here, which is pointing out your problems does not make them go away.
Well, okay, so I could get the way the inflection of the voice works because
It's supposed to be meta, but it's not. It doesn't feel organic enough to come off as meta.
on a writing level, this not even like for the story. Like the story itself on paper works. It's interesting.
Yeah, it could have worked, but
what I'm saying is, like, again, speaking as a guy who's done writing and stuff, I've never done really comedy because that's incredibly hard to do.
Yeah.
And my kind of comedy is very different compared to like this.
Yeah.
There's more dialogue.
Yeah.
I'm more like Three Stooges, Buster Keaton, physical comedy. That's more past. What's the word? Passe.
Forte.
On a writing level, in terms of dialogue, all these characters, like if you were to just write all these lines down on a paper, right?
Hmm.
They all sound the same. Like one person that's saying them.
Yeah,
You know?
it's the voice of the writers, not the voice of the characters. Because and this is exactly what I mean by forced. It feels like you're holding these characters by gunpoint and forcing them to say these lines rather than these lines organically occurring to these characters.
Yeah, it's like how like okay, so to bring up another stop motion thing that has better like voice acting and lines and differentiate between characters is Wes Anderson's Fantastic Mr. Fox.
I mean, I'm one of the only people who doesn't like that movie, but it's better than this.
Don, I say this as your friend, but you can go fuck yourself.
I read the book when I was a kid, is why. It's not a very it's a really weird and not good adaptation of the book.
Okay, I'm looking at its own thing then. I haven't read the book myself.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at it as like its own thing, and I think it's a good movie overall.
And that's like I said, I acknowledge that I am one of the only people on earth who doesn't like that movie, but yeah.
But to be fair, I like a lot of like Wes Anderson stuff,
Yeah, Wes Anderson is good.
and
It's just
it still shocks the hell out of me that he's so young too.
wait, how young is he?
You've never seen like a picture of him?
No, I always assumed he was older.
Hold on. Let me. Like I saw like what he looked like, and it just shocked the hell out of me.
And the fucking screen went it's doing the buffering thing, so I'll dip out and come back in.
Okay.
Hello? Hello? I can't hear you, brainstormer.
You see it?
Huh?
Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I think that was on my end for a quick sec. Started to slow a bit, but yeah.
Okay, anyway, you were looking up a picture of Wes Anderson.
Well, I looked up his age on my phone, so he's actually 52, but the dude looks a lot younger, like in his early to mid 30s.
Ah. I was gonna say I thought he was a little older.
I mean, still 52 comparatively is still kind of
It's fairly young for that kind for as big of an impact as he had or has on things.
yeah.
I thought you were gonna surprise me and say he was like 25 or something.
Right.
Anyway, candy canes.
Yeah, one sec. Let me just move some stuff. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Candy canes.
Let's go over what we know. Santa and the board are all male and all white. They play golf, drink, smoke cigars, say things like, "Don't ever marry your mistress."
Just so you know, the women of the North Pole make fun of one of your dicks.
I'm not gonna lie, that's kind of funny. Although I wish there was more context to that scene.
Yeah, just
That, I don't know. That line just, I found it funny, but again, it needs more context for it to work. Like, just, it seems like it's randomly put in there.
or like she's saying it for no profit. That's the thing about a lot of these insult lines and a lot of these like Santa's a white male lines. It feels so unprovoked. Like,
Yeah, like, we're not really seeing the perspective of the quote-unquote antagonist, which I guess would be this Santa a bit.
yeah, it feels like they want the cachet of feeling morally superior, but they don't want to. Like, they make it feel like he's wrong for just doing what he does, rather than wrong for doing
Well,
an
to be
actual thing.
fair, earlier it did seem like he's
Yeah, this Santa is a bit of an asshole, but they're not calling him out for being an asshole. They're calling him out for being white and male.
which I mean, I guess to them, the writers of
Yeah,
this,
in their framework, those are equivalent things, but it's still like, yeah. Again, I hate to break it to you, people in Hollywood, but you have to actually justify your moral framework because not everyone is on board with your moral framework.
yeah, it's like, yeah, again, like it's weird, mainly because I feel like this trailer is really kind of badly edited as well.
Yeah.
Which is, I'm not gonna lie, even with like Q-Force, like it at least had a flow to it, as bad as it was for that trailer.
How far have we fallen that we're complimenting Q-Force? I agree with you, and that makes me sad.
Well, okay, to be fair, second trailer was better.
Yeah,
and better.
but still, how far have we fallen that we were complimenting Q-Force?
Again, I feel like this has to be one of the catchphrases I have. To be fair, modern trailers suck immensely these days.
Yeah. I'm not disputing that. I'm just internally weeping because we have fallen so far that Q-Force is looking good by comparison.
I'm not complimenting Q-Force itself. I'm more so complimenting the technical aspect of the trailer we'd seen.
Yeah. Which brings up the question of why are the people who made this still working for Netflix? They should have been fired already.
Have you actually seen the show?
No, but I've talked to people who have, and they say that the trailer is an accurate reflection of the show.
Okay. Because I've heard conflicting things about it, honestly. Anyway, that's unimportant.
Candy canes.
Candy canes.
Have fun wondering whose it is. What I need to learn is how to throw out with these guys. Shoot the shit, do shit.
She has ideas, but can she really be the face of Christmas?
Again, like there are scenes in this trailer that were edited in the trailer, which was like only supposed to be, I think, 30 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
And in that ad, it worked better because it actually seemed like it was telling a fucking story.
Yeah,
like
the more context we get of this, the more I hate it, and that's a bad sign. Usually, it's supposed to be the other way around. You're supposed to like something the more context you get.
Yeah, it's so weird how a 30-second ad could focused on the story, and this is focusing on. Well, I don't even know what's really trying to focus on.
It's trying to use that. It's trying to use a TV show as a megaphone for their particular ideology. Is what they're trying to do.
So just absolute idiocy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not surprised.
because this is what Hollywood does. Things don't exist for their own sake or for the sake of like actually being decent. They exist as a means to an end, particularly a means to a socio-political end, because fuck you.
Yeah. Yeah, I got nothing really to say. No, it's bad.
Yeah. Candy canes.
Candy canes.
I'll be named successor, die trying.
Merry Christmas and to all a kick-ass night!
See, the thing is, ironically, I think the writers of this show needed to do exactly what the character needs to do, which is learn how people outside of your bubble think. Because if the person who wrote this was able to understand how people outside of their bubble think, this would probably be better. But because they're so self-congratulatory and so self-satisfied with their own particular worldview, and they can't see why any other worldview is even remotely valid, it's cringe. It's ideologically sanctioned, moralistically pandering cringe.
My God, it's so bad that it's making Don't even use modern slang.
Yes, that is how far we've fallen. When I have no highfalutin academic words to use, you know something done fucked up.
Right. Okay, so just kind of in on a more. Well, to be fair, I don't think we're gonna spend. We're probably gonna cut it off.
Yeah, we're probably not gonna do all of them today. We'll probably do about half of them, like we did with the Halloween listicles.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Or like the first 10 or whatever.
Yeah, it's still loading. Just give it a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, probably the first 10. That's what I was thinking anyway.
Yeah.
And for those who don't know, just in case like it takes a while for it to load, this is the entertainment.com top 20 Christmas movies ever. It's a ranking list. It's published November 13th, 2018.
That seems fairly early for a Christmas list. November.
I'm not the one who makes it, man.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so there we go. Let me share it. Okay. That's by Chris Nashawati. Said the name wrong. I'm sorry. So yeah, like I said, we're gonna look at this. We're just gonna cover the first 10 today and then finish next week, hopefully.
Yep.
Yeah, shall we?
Yep.
All right. Number 20, the Santa Claus, 1994. 1994?
Yep.
Huh.
Yep.
I didn't know that.
It's a 90s movie.
Well, I knew it was a 90s movie. I just thought it was a little later in the 90s, you know?
Nope,
Like,
it's 94. Year before I was born.
5 before I was.
Mm-hmm.
All right. If the thought of seeing Tim Allen in a squishy fat suit makes you dream of sugar plums, this is the film for you. The home improvement star accidentally kills Santa and has to take his place. It's no It's a Wonderful Life, but it has its moments. Plus, there's Judge Reinhold. I don't know who that is.
I know who that is, but I don't know who he plays in Santa Claus.
Yeah.
For me, the thing that was the most interesting about that movie was the actual Santa Claus as a concept itself.
Yeah, I agree. I think I remember the other movies a little better than the first one. Because I think
I like the first one the best, but the other two are pretty good too.
well, I think
still.
the thing that stuck with me with the others is mainly because like the first movie is mostly just building stuff up. I mean, granted, again, they weren't really trying to do a trilogy out of it or anything.
Yeah, they were trying to build a world, and I think they succeeded really well because for the longest time, as a kid, this was basically how I thought it worked.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong. Yeah, I liked what they did in the first movie. Obviously, it's just the second and third movies really got me intrigued because like they really expanded it and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and it was really cool to me.
I will admit that I have a massive soft spot for the third one because um I liked that movie so much as a kid that for one year for Christmas I literally asked for a snow globe from the Hall of Snow Globes.
Yeah. Um, I think in the third one I really liked because the other holidays and mythical figures.
Yeah.
Plus,
Although they were first introduced in the second one, I think.
again, it's been a while since I've seen these movies, so my mind's a little.
Yeah, Mother Nature and Father Time and Cupid and the Easter Bunny.
I loved the Tooth Fairy. Like making him like a Boston dude.
Tooth Fairy is secretly a mobster. You don't give him if you don't give him your teeth under your pillow, he'll knock them out of you.
If he doesn't get his teeth, if he doesn't collect his teeth, he collects some legs. All right, shall we move on?
Yeah.
Gremlins, 1984. Let's read the description first because I feel like. Okay, so not a Christmas movie per se, but Joe Dante's mischievous monster mash comedy is set during the holidays in a snowy Norman Rockwell-esque town. Plus, who didn't want a cuddly little pet like Gizmo waiting under the tree on Christmas morning? Assuming you get after midnight.
I mean, they're not wrong. I would definitely want I believe the term was Mogwai.
Yeah.
For Christmas.
Yeah, I think that's what it was.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, there are plenty of movies like Krampus from 2015.
Yeah, the Christmas horror movies, and this definitely does kind of fit, especially with the darkest part of that movie was the love interest backstory.
Guys, it's been a while. Like honestly, I remember Gremlins 2 more because I saw that more than I saw the first one. It's hard
I can't even begin to watch Gremlins 2 because they fucked up the mythology.
Fair enough. Anyway, it's just so hard to find like the first Gremlins movie. Like they play the second one a lot.
I've actually never seen them play. When I watched Gremlins 2, I literally had to go looking for it. But yeah, I've never seen it. I've never seen it played on TV.
I've seen it more. Yeah, I don't know. Like places I was like USA Network, I think, and if anyone remembers like Discovery Family, like that channel.
Ah. Mm-hmm,
yeah.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Or the Hub, I think it was called.
Back before it was the Hub. It was Discovery Family.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so like for me, it's so hard to find like the first movie. Like I know about it and stuff, and I've seen clips of it. Like I remember watching it as a kid and liking it. It's just
but the love interest subplot with the reason why she doesn't like Christmas, just damn. Like there's dark, and then there's just things that make you go, good goddamn, you got away with that in a kid's movie.
Parents died on Christmas.
Her dad her dad was gonna dress up as Santa and surprise her by coming down the chimney,
That's
and
burned alive.
he got stuck and got burned alive because they had lit the fire. Good goddamn.
Wow. Okay.
Yep.
God, movies back then did not pull their punches.
No, I want to go back to those days, seriously. 'Cause as a kid, I liked the things that treated me more grown up and didn't
Yeah.
like weren't saccharine.
Moving on.
Yeah.
Number 18, National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation.
I am surprised this is so low. Although it may not be like quality listed. It might have just been whatever the writer thought of.
All right. Sorry. Okay. Description is okay. So it's not the best installment in the Griswold family saga, but Christmas Vacation is worth watching alone for Randy Quaid's cousin Eddie and Chevy Chase's fumbling encounter with a buxom department store saleswoman. I mean, I was just browsing. It's a bit nipply out. I mean, nippy. Okay, I'm sorry. Like, I get it's for comedy and stuff, but even I'm not that socially awkward with people.
Yeah.
And I'm plenty socially awkward.
Yeah. I don't like the comedic stutter as a rule in general. Although I do disagree that with the writer of the article saying that this isn't the best vacation movie, because I think it is. Though I will say I one of my biggest problems with certain movies is I get secondhand embarrassment really badly. And because I am such a Clark Griswoldian motherfucker when it comes to the holidays, and the love of lore and tradition and stuff, I feel secondhand embarrassment on his behalf when everything starts going wrong. So I can't really. I love the beginning of National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, but I can't watch it all the way through usually because I just like watching characters suffer and be miserable for no reason, especially when they're relatable. So, yeah.
Yeah. Moving on.
Yep.
All right. Well, this is one of my favorite movies. Number 17, Scrooge, 1988.
I mean, I like it, but it's not the best version of A Christmas Carol.
I like it. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. I think it was kind of like one of my first modern interpretations that I saw of a Christmas Carol.
Yeah.
So that's why, I
like the different interpretations of it, but I tend to prefer the old school ones. But then again, I just enjoy the
Victorian,
late 19th century vibe in general.
Victorian era stuff. Yeah, I get that. To be fair, I also like watching Muppets Christmas Carol.
That's another good one. Although my favorite is the George C. Scott one from the 80s. That's my go-to one.
I've seen so many different versions. Like we had to watch some for school purposes.
Mm-hmm.
Like black and white versions and stuff. We saw so many. I will say my favorite cartoon versions, and I know we're getting off topic here, but one of my favorite animated versions was what was it? Bah Humduck?
Yes.
Yeah.
The Looney Tunes version?
Yeah.
With Daffy as Scrooge. Although again, I get a little bit of secondhand embarrassment from that for some reason. I think because I've always liked Daffy, and I usually end up on Daffy's side when it comes to most things. But
yeah, honestly, I agree. Honestly, I was never really a Bugs Bunny kind of guy.
I like Bugs when he's by himself, but when it comes to harassing other like I'm fine when he harasses like
Elmer.
Elmer because Elmer's being a dick, but
Yeah.
when it comes to the Bug versus Daffy thing, I'm always on Daffy's side because it's like I know what it's like to always be second fiddle or second best.
Yeah, but
Somebody, so
he's on his own adventures. The dude is just as crafty, or even more so, than Bugs is.
especially when it comes to ways to get back at Bugs for being such a golden boy, prissy little shit.
Okay, so the description is: no one does Bah Humbug better than Bill Murray's Frank Cross, a heartless TV executive in this dark comedy retelling of Dickens' Christmas Carol. Yes, it's pretty much the same film as Groundhog Day. Jerk becomes a better man on the eve of the national holiday, but that doesn't stop it from being the perfect prickly antidote to Yuletide sap.
I mean, it's good. It is definitely good, and I do love Bill Murray. There are so many great versions of A Christmas Carol, and it's a story, and even like different modern versions of A Christmas Carol. So it's like,
Yeah.
uh,
I would say, like, out of like all the ghosts, I love these interpretations. Specifically, the Ghost of Christmas Yet to Come. Like, he's just so fucking terrifying.
yeah,
You know, like the blank, almost like the TV face. Then like when like remember when he opened him and you just see like all those like screaming faces and stuff.
yeah. I mean, the Ghost of Christmas Future. Let's be real. The Ghost of Christmas Future has always been meant to symbolize basically the Grim Reaper. Like,
Oh yeah,
the job of Ghost of Christmas Yet to Come is what the Grim Reaper does on his off hours. Time the
right.
Grim Reaper spends his holidays.
Also, to bring up another Christmas Carol adaptation, the one with Scrooge McDuck. You know, Disney one.
Yeah, also good.
Yeah, I love that they made Pete the Ghost of Christmas Yet to Come.
Yeah.
Or Christmas Future.
Yeah. Speaking of Bah Humduck, having Taz be Ghost of Christmas Future was pretty good too. Although I really, really wish he hadn't talked.
Yeah.
Because the
It's
silent for because that's the thing that makes the Ghost of Christmas Future more ominous than all the rest of them is you can't reason with him, you can't talk to him, you can't bully him, you can't reason with him, you can't nothing. He is an inexorable force.
like the coolest version I remember is, I don't know if you agree with me. Like I personally am I'm 50-50 on Jim Carrey's, the 3D animation one.
Yeah, I don't like that version of A Christmas Carol very much, but I will say in terms of the Ghost of Christmas Future, that is one of my favorite Ghost of Christmas Future.
Yeah, he's like just a shadow on the wall, and
it's also extremely accurate to the actual source material because that's always how the Ghost of Christmas Future is described, is as a shadow.
Yeah. Okay, so number 16, Die Hard, 1988.
I get why it's here. I do. It's just much in the same way as with the Halloween list we went through. In order for something to be a Christmas movie, to me, it has to have more actual Christmas atmosphere. And so, while I love Die Hard, and while I do understand why it is a Christmas movie, it doesn't make my top list of Christmas movies because it doesn't have enough lore in it.
Right. I would be willing to have a discussion about that, but I feel like if we try to have one now, we'd be here for hours. Personally, I would also like to think that Lethal Weapon is more a Christmas movie than Die Hard.
I'm gonna be controversial here and say that Batman Returns is more of a Christmas movie than Die Hard.
Oh, obviously, I'm just saying, like,
but in terms of non-Christmas Christmas movies, if I'm gonna watch one, it's gonna be Batman Returns.
Well, I'm talking more in terms of action movies, and I
Right.
think Lethal Weapon has more stuff to do with Christmas. Like, it's not said it's more subtle
Hmm.
with like how Christmas is about family and stuff, and the
Right.
people like Christmas get lonelier and all that.
Yeah, I will say I absolutely love Hans Gruber though. That's the one thing that Die Hard 1 has that the others don't, is the glory that is Hans Gruber.
Right. New York cop John McClane heads to LA to see his wife and winds up attending the Christmas office party from hell, thanks to Alan Rickman's memorable Teutonic baddie Hans Gruber, who finds a one-man killing machine along with a lump of coal in his stocking. Who needs ho 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 when you have yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker?
I mean, there's room for both, to be fair.
I mean, John did use both, remember?
Yeah.
Moving on.
Yeah.
Miracle on 34th Street, 1947.
Okay, so they're going the classic one. I do really like the Richard Attenborough, Mara Wilson one from the 90s.
I don't think I've ever seen this.
You've probably seen the remake.
No, I've never heard of this movie at all.
Oh dear, I think you'd really like it actually.
An old man working as a Macy's department store Santa claims to be Kris Kringle, and he convinces innocent kids and even the most cynical adults that he's the real deal. There's something undeniably sweet about this perennial classic. Even though it were made today, he'd be handcuffed and thrown in the slammer.
Okay, long story short, through a series of plot contrivances and a bunch of greedy bastards not liking that this Santa cuts into their bottom line, he ends up getting sued, and he basically ends up having to prove that he is the real Santa Claus.
So it's like, oh God. You never seen that movie?
It's been a long time.
Where like God comes down asking this one guy if he can talk to the people, and then like everyone questions whether or not he is God, and he has to prove it and stuff.
More ambiguous than that. The way they kind of get out of it is that he's so good at being Santa that they essentially agree to just all kind of believe it. And one of the ways they get out of it is they realize that the phrase "in God we trust" is on the money, and if they can trust, if the federal institution of the Federal Reserve can trust that God exists, then they in the American court system can trust that that person is actually Santa Claus. The cool thing is that the guy's name is actually Kris Kringle, which is cool.
Shall we?
Yeah.
Number 14, White Christmas, 1954. I've never seen this or heard of it.
I've seen it once. It's not a very good movie, actually.
Okay. Bing Crosby, Danny Kaye, and Rosemary Clooney deck the halls in this Yuletide classic. Who cares if this movie's as syrupy as a Vermont maple? The Irving.
Oh yeah, it's really, really cheesy, like to the point that even I'm like, nope.
Oh, it's a musical. That's probably why I never really looked into it.
Yeah, the music is pretty good, to be fair, but it's really cheesy.
Number 13, The Nightmare Before Christmas, 1993. Tim Burton may seem like more of a natural fit for Halloween than Christmas, but the mad maestro of the macabre stop-motion holiday fable is pure eye candy. Yeah.
You get, no arguments for me here. I mean, he's good at anything that requires him to do an over the top aesthetic. It's why I like I said earlier, I think that Batman Returns is probably a more Christmassy movie than Die Hard. Although to be fair, Henry Selick deserves most of the credit for Nightmare.
Yeah.
Rather than Tim. I mean, I love Tim, and it was originally his idea and everything, but shout out to poor Henry Selick, man. He doesn't get nearly enough credit for this.
Shall we?
Yep.
Number 12, Trading Places, 1983. I've heard of this movie, but I've never seen it.
Same thing. I've heard of it. I've heard a lot of good things about it, but I've never seen the darn thing.
Okay, all right. So maybe this one's not technically a Christmas movie either, but the sight of a down and out Dan Aykroyd in a Santa suit eating a slab of salmon through his grungy cotton candy beard fills us with the holiday spirit.
Okay, it's got Dan Aykroyd in it. Now I have to watch it. I love Dan Aykroyd.
It has Dan Aykroyd and Eddie Murphy in it, like playing off each other.
Okay, I'm gonna have to watch this now. Dan Aykroyd is always a win.
Eddie Murphy's always a win.
Yes, both of them. Although, to be fair, there are bad Eddie Murphy movies out there. So that's why I immediately jumped to Eddie Murphy is always a win, because Pluto Nash.
Never seen. I think I've only seen good Eddie Murphy movies.
Good for you.
Okay, so number 11, Home Alone, 1990.
Yep.
Writer John Hughes added heart to Thanksgiving with planes, trains, and automobiles. In Home Alone, he takes a less sentimental approach to the holidays with the tale of 8-year-old Kevin McAllister, the adorable Macaulay Culkin, who's left alone by his family only to face down and outwit a pair of bungling burglars. Let's be honest, you can enjoy this any time of the year.
Yep, but it is definitely also a Christmas movie,
Yeah.
or a very Christmassy movie rather, because again, it's caked in the aesthetic so much, and even the themes, as much as I hate themes, really work for the holidays.
To be fair, I kind of like Lost in New York more.
Yeah, I agree. The sequel improved.
Yeah, I think the traps in those were just so much more fun and cartoony.
Yeah, because they took what worked in the first movie and scaled it up.
Yeah.
And they also scaled up the Christmassy theme, because I mean the stuff with Duncan Soy Chest, the stuff with the hotel and the hotel clerk played by Tim Curry, who was always a win. Everything about Home Alone 2 Lost in New York is the rare sequel movie that genuinely does take everything the first movie did and do it bigger, better, and more grandiose.
Mm-hmm. Number 10, which is where we're going to cut it off for tonight. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, 1964.
And see, here's where I'm going to have to be controversial. Because when you say Rudolph to me, I'm thinking of the animated one from the 90s. Not the Rankin and Bass stop motion one. I like the Rankin and Bass stop motion ones, don't get me wrong. But this one never, because I saw the 90s animated one first, this one never jived with me. I like the concept of I forget the elf's name in the Rankin and Bass one. But I like the concept of him and the idea that he wants to be a dentist. But I think what it is the Rankin and Bass one is just too saccharine and, for lack of a better word, on the nose. And I swear to God that was accidental. But yeah, when I think of Rudolph, I think more of the the 90s animated one where John Goodman played Santa Claus and Whoopi Goldberg was the villainous Stormella, and there were the sprites of the Northern Lights, and Eric Idle plays a fox named Slyly, who has one of the best songs I've ever heard in any animated movie ever, called It Could Always Be Worse. And honestly, I love that song so much that sometimes I just listen to it when I'm having a bad day, regardless of what time of year it is. So yeah, I'm biased in that I think I started life with a much better version of Rudolph than the Rankin Bass one. Although ironically, I ended up watching the sequel to the Rankin and Bass uh special before I watched the original, and I actually kind of like that one better because that one has a teddy bear who decides to be an evil Pied Piper because he was forgotten by his child, which is just so like it's what usually happens in Toy Story, but in my opinion, kind of done better. But anyway, moving on.
This made-for-TV Rankin and Bass classic features Burl Ives as Sam the Snowman, telling the eternally sweet story of an outcast with a very shiny nose and an elf who wants to be a dentist, and anyone must see.
Again, I think the 90s animated one was better. And I don't understand why nobody knows about the 90s animated one, except for, I guess, me. But for those that haven't ever seen the 90s animated Rudolph with Eric Idle, John Goodman, and Whoopi Goldberg and others, I would highly recommend it. And just that cast alone probably got some people interested in it. But yeah, it's genuinely good, and it has an interesting and complex mythology as to why Rudolph's nose is like it is.
Mm-hmm.
Also, there's these two really comedic elves in it called Boone and Doggle, and they're hilarious. They're basically Abbott and Costello if they were elves.
Right. So before we go, I made a quick add to the list. Just again to kind of purge ourselves of the Santa Inc. trailer.
Mm-hmm. Because that needs to be killed with ice.
Well, it's something that came out yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
It is a trailer. Well, first look. And I thought it would be something nice to watch because it's something that I am very excited to see, which is Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse Part 1.
Ah, I did see that, yes.
Yeah.
I didn't watch it yet, so it should be interesting.
Yeah. I know this isn't like some Christmassy, but it came out in December, and I honestly didn't want to wait until January to cover it.
Yeah. Okay.
Plus, this is the only good Spider-Man thing I have, so.
Yeah, the Miles Morales Spider-Man makes all the other cinematic versions of Spider-Man look silly.
Well, in the Spider-Verse series, anyway.
Yeah.
Comics have kind of fucked him, man.
Well, yeah, it's funny, but Miles has the better movie, but obviously Peter has the better comics. Anyway, but banana.
Or candy canes.
Well, it's not really Christmassy though.
Fair enough.
So banana.
I can't state how much I like these movies, man.
Yeah, Into the Spider-Verse was great. So I can't and are Phil Lord and Chris Miller coming back to do the sequel?
Well, first they weren't the guys who directed. They
Right,
were.
but are they back? Is
I
the
think
question.
so. I think they were already signed on to do another one.
Because if Phil Lord and Chris Miller are back, then this is going to be good regardless, to be honest with you, because
Yeah,
everything Phil Lord and Chris Miller touch turns to awesome.
yeah. Like the thing I like about this, all right, about like this about this like series is one with like how Phil Lord and Chris Miller work as creatives is again they're deconstructive in their storytelling, but also it's deconstruction with heart.
Yeah, they're being sincere rather than quasi-intellectual fuckwits who think that their socio-political woo is more important than the world of the storytelling.
Yeah. Like in the first movie, you can really tell like it really breaks down what being like a Spider-Man or spider hero is like,
Mhm.
and it defies a lot of tropes and stuff. And
I'm curious, which of the multiverse Spider-Man was your favorite in that?
that is extremely hard because I liked them all for various different reasons.
Mhm.
Personally, and this probably isn't a surprise to you, probably Spider-Man Noir.
I'd have to agree with you there. I like although Spider Ham, it was nice to just see him.
Yeah. Well, I like all of them because like my favorite one of my like I have a lot of favorite scenes in that movie, obviously.
That movie is comprised of like 99% favorite scenes.
Yeah, yeah. Um, but one of my favorite scenes is like when they're in Miles's dorm, like all of them, and like they're telling him like after like his uncle died, which is also a really great scene. Like again, how I can how like I usually judge a movie, right? Is
Yeah,
whether or not one
the emotional cathexis of it.
yeah that moment, well, a few moments in them got me like kind of teary eyed. Like I didn't full on cry or anything, but like I wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
Like after his uncle Aaron dies in front of him, uh, and like they are kind of gathered around Miles and like tell him, they've lost people too, and the scene with like where Spider Ham like is somewhat crying and saying like, in this job you can't always save everyone. Like it comes from obviously like the Porky Pig comedic parody of Spider-Man and Spider-Ham.
Yeah, Spider-Ham, the most weird and comic booky and over the top version of Spider-Man, pretty much.
Yeah, and that's the thing with like spider heroes is when they get this power, if not for like the tragedy that would happen, of like a loved one dying because of because of what happened, because of their machinations, their choice to not do something, it doesn't make them understand the responsibility. Like you remember the animated Spider-Man series in the 90s where they did sort of a Spider-Verse thing. And the silver armored Spider-Man who was like a super rich dude and stuff.
Yeah.
Who is still technically a hero, but he doesn't more. He's like an Iron Man, basically.
Yeah, he's
like comics accurate Spider-Man, Iron Man, where like he's doing it more so for vanity than anything because Uncle Ben didn't die. And yeah, and it got to me because like again, Spider-Ham was the kind of maybe he's one of the comedic reliefs in the movie. But he was able to be serious and like he's not just a Looney Tunes character, like he's an actual person, sort of.
Yeah. Well, as much of a person as a pig from a world of anthropomorphic animals can be.
Actually, he was a spider that got bit by a radioactive ham. That's the actual origin. I'm not making that up.
I love weird Silver Age bullshit so much.
I don't know if that was Silver Age. I think.
I have to believe that was Silver Age because
Well, I mean, technically, Spider-Man was created in the Silver Age, so
yeah, and the what if started roughly thereafter. So
yeah, so 70s or 80s at least.
yeah, but in the Silver Age, yeah, but yeah, the weird Silver Age bullshit I love so much. Like I say, as a character, I like Spider-Man Noir the best, but as a nod to the lore, I love that Spider-Ham exists in that movie.
Yeah.
I
Anyway,
wish the MCU would be that risky.
they'll never be. Anyway.
Yeah. Banana.
No.
Got a minute?
Those visuals, though, god damn it.
Like a legit comic book. Why the fuck can't the live action stuff do this shit?
Yeah, oi, Kevin Feige. Next time they need to do a Doctor Strange movie, this, please.
Yeah. I also like how there's a lot of subtle changes to these character models and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can kind of see like they're a little older, but not like it's not overt, you know?
Yeah, it's obvious that something has, like, time has passed, but it's not so much that it's a time skip.
Yeah. Plus I love the new added design. They put like the pink webbing gloves on Gwen's costume. Like it's an added pop. It's not just pure white hand arms, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It's a breakup of a solid color, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like you'd think there'd be more pink with like the inside of the hoodie being like pink webbing and stuff.
Yeah.
Also, I want to point out, Gwen is like one of the only characters that has made like that half cut, like you know the hairstyle that we all know and kind of hate work.
Mm-hmm.
Mainly because it's not super overt in the hairstyle.
Right. It doesn't look like she lost a fight with a say, because this is the imagery that always pops into my head every time I see those kind of haircuts. Is you remember the first episode of Danny Phantom to introduce Technus? How the garage full of junk got possessed by ecto goo.
Mm-hmm.
I always think of that those shears that got possessed by them, because that's what it always makes me think of, is you look like you lost an argument with one of those things.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, banana.
How have you been? It's a long story. Is this the room you grew up in? It is. But my dorm room is very adult. Right. No, of course. Hey, are these your drawings? What? No, listen.
Aw, they're so cute.
I don't know. Simon, I'm just in awe of everything. Also, I love the fact that they made him like an artist. You know, like the graffiti. Like again, like the thing that I like about this version of Miles. That don't get me wrong, I don't mind the comics, like the original comics version, like for the Ultimate Comics.
Yeah, this one has more personality though, and more importantly, his own personality.
Yeah, like he wasn't. I don't want to say it, but he kind of was. He was a Black Peter Parker.
Yeah,
pretty much. Like he had some elements, sure, but of individuality. But
for the most part, he was just the diversification of Spider-Man. Now, granted, Miles does it a hell of a lot better than 90% of the other diversity characters, but still, this Miles is his own character with his own likes, desires, wants, needs, so on.
Also, apparently, and I noticed this in like when I saw a tweet of someone like talking about it. Apparently, the dude's like a fan of Tokusatsu. Like, if you take a notice in like the background stuff.
Okay, again, I am convinced that Phil Lord and Chris Miller can do no wrong.
Shall we?
Yep, banana.
Banana.
I missed you too.
Okay. So, what are you doing here?
I mean, I thought I'd never see you again.
Want to get out of here?
I'm grounded.
Bummer.
Again, I just love the art, dude.
Yeah. Visual and colorful storytelling. Who the fuck knew it was still a thing?
How the fuck? Like, you get this kind of look from like indie films more so than mainstream movies.
Yeah, but then again, I mean, these are the people who gave us a fully realized Lego world that wasn't a cash grab. So
also, pretty great comedy and two great comedies in 21 Jump Street and 22 Jump Street.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm just so enraptured by like the lighting and the shading of it and all.
Yeah, because it's actually bothering to do lighting and shading.
Yeah. Anyway, shall we?
Banana.
Banana.
Is Spider-Man grounded?
I mean, I
God damn, I love this so much.
I would say like this is a minor nitpick. I kind of wish he kept like the hoodie and stuff. But other than that, like I got no problem. You know, like
I mean, aesthetically it works, but also, I mean, that was his "I'm coming into my own" still outfit. So
yeah, that's true. And plus, I mean, he didn't wear it like the whole time. Like he wore it like he didn't wear it like during the final battle or anything. It's just I don't know.
yeah, maybe we'll see it again in like a background Easter egg or something.
Yeah, I don't know. I just liked it. It was a cool look. Like it was very different from like other Spider people who just wore like very much, you know, very much like the regular Spider-Man kind of uniforms and stuff.
Yeah. Banana.
Also, this is how you do alternate dimensions and stuff, Marvel.
Yes. For the love of God, yes. Take notes.
Yeah. All right. Banana.
I got nothing. Just yep.
Like okay, and this isn't a flaw with like other movies I've seen, which I think are really good, specifically like DreamWorks ones, where like they have the characters that are very like cartoonish, but they make like the world itself very like photorealistic and stuff.
Yeah, it doesn't really work.
No, I'm not saying it doesn't work. Like it works for those movies. It's just
it makes more sense when the aesthetics are consistent between both the world and the character, because the world shapes the character and the character is a product of the world. So
I'm not saying that either. I'm just saying like what I mean by photorealistic, and this again, I'm not making a gripe about those movies because I like those movies. Is by being photorealistic, sometimes you kind of drown out a bit of the color.
Mm-hmm.
And granted, this is more based off like comic books and stuff, where like there's color to be abounds. Specifically, like I'm thinking like very early Spider-Man comics and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it works a lot. Yeah, it's just I don't know what I'd point out there. Also, I love how we're like getting different styles, obviously, for like different dimensions and stuff.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah. All right. Shall we?
Banana.
Banana.
Again, why is this better than any of the Doctor Strange stuff so far?
Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. And also, I'm very intrigued to see the story, what the story is, because this is actually how you do a trailer. I'm not gonna lie.
Yep.
October 7th, 2022.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah,
It annoys me that it's better at doing the multiverse than Doctor Strange.
you know what annoys me?
That
it does Spider-Man better than the fucking MCU movies.
Yeah. Though maybe we'll be surprised and they'll at least try to do something in No Way Home.
Oh, it's too late. It's too late. They had 2 movies to build up the character of Peter Parker. Nothing. No, not even that. They had Civil War where they built him up pretty cool. Homecoming was all right, but lack of consequence and stuff like that, choice.
Yeah.
That.
And Far From Home, honestly, the fake backstory should have been the real one.
I'm not there yet.
Or yeah. Go ahead.
Infinity War. Barely got to do shit. Granted, again, I'm willing to forgive that because it was mainly focused on like the original 7 Avengers.
Well, that and also there was a lot going on.
Yeah, I'm willing to forgive that. Endgame,
and he did get the Mr. Stark I don't want to go scene, which was, god damn it.
I like credit to Tom Holland there, but I don't know. Endgame, again, I'm still lenient on that because again, it was more focused again on the original Avengers and stuff and their journey and all that.
I mean, he got condescended to by Captain Marvel, which was the only thing where I was like, really?
I don't know if that was condescension. That was just Brie Larson being not a great actress. And then Far From Home, where my problem with the MCU Spider-Man really fucking developed. And I've made my words very clear on that many times.
Mm-hmm.
It's just so fucking bad. Like it's so focused on like subversion of expectations.
Yeah.
It doesn't focus on telling a good story.
Yeah, they deliberately. This is my biggest problem with it. It comes up with a better backstory for this version of Mysterio, and then decides not to use it.
Like literally, you could totally do that. No, I've already had a discussion.
Yeah, Mysterio would have been a more interesting character if his fake backstory was his real one in this universe.
Yeah, and if he was a fallen hero instead of just a full-on fucking villain.
Yeah.
And if he had an actual connection with Peter or Spider-Man instead of being connected to Stark again.
Yeah.
Anyway. Then like I bring up the subversion of expectation thing is because again, Spider-Verse does this well on the fact that one, it's not talking down to the fucking audience because they do that.
Yeah.
Like the actual subversion works because you don't know what you're expecting. Like, it keeps you on the edge of your seat. It keeps you engaged.
Right, and it actually lets things happen that make sense to happen, rather than, well, the writing needs this to happen, so it happens because reasons. Bullshit.
Remember the reveal of Doc Ock?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that totally surprised me. Well, not like
Mhm.
extremely, not like extreme surprised or anything, but
No, but it was a nice surprise.
yeah. So yeah, it's just like also the thing with like Kingpin, who's a really cool villain, man. Like I got a lot of like Netflix's Daredevil from that version of Kingpin.
Mm.
In terms of the backstory, you know, a bit.
Yep.
Yeah. Anyway, with that, folks, I want to say goodbye, adios, aloha, avideze, sayonara, peace, cheers, and
Happy holly jolly fuck off.